usual, we are going to not stop on maintenance items unless you guys stop me and say, hey, Ted, I want to talk about this, and we'll stop on all the discretionaries. Instead of starting back in municipal services, we're going to start with police department. So let's get the police department out first, guys.
I was hoping we could skip the police department.
Motion. I was just waiting for municipal services to get done first, and to see what he was going to do. Because all these years, police goes first, and then they're out the door, and he never come back. I just wanted to see how this
there was a
would play
discussion
out.
about
Thank
it
you
today.
all
We'll
for
leave it at
attending.
that.
I appreciate that.
All right, so as we start with the police department budget, we're going to start on personnel. Our budget for salaries for FYE 19 was 414.
Ted, because
What page is that?
What page? Since you threw out
32.
Since you threw an audible at the line. Thank you.
32. Where it says police department budget, fiscal year 2019-2020. You guys got it?
Yep.
Okay. Salaries for civilians, 414,970. We came in flat. Salaries for officers, we budgeted $3,572,000. We came in at $36,000 less at $3,536,500. Overtime, we budgeted $475,000. However, we came in $116,000 over at $590,689. Our budget for that subtotal for that budget area was $4,462,000. We came in $80,000 over at $4,542,007. Under benefits, Medicare, we budgeted $64,700. We came in $7,000 less at $57,619. Under IMRF, we budgeted $48,409. We came in $6,000 less at $42,852. Under police pension, we budgeted $1,618,878. We came in $15,000 higher at $1,633,996. As you guys just take a quick look out for FYE 20, we're looking at budgeting $1,714,350, and the forecast for 21 is $1,885,000, and the forecast for FYE 22 is $2,074,364. Those numbers are not set in stone, but just want to give you guys a heads up on that. Under operating costs, investigation and equipment, we budgeted $42,980. We came in at $4,500 less at $38,525. Under liability insurance, $65,520. We came in $7,500 less at $58,087. Under maintenance equipment, we budgeted $15,850. We came in $3,000 higher at $18,286. Maintenance for vehicles, we budgeted $21,200. We came in at $20,000 higher at $41,760. Under training and education, we budgeted $38,700. Came in $9,000 less at $29,585. Under uniforms, we budgeted $63,100. We came in at $3,000 less at $59,968. Under vehicle, gas, and oil, we budgeted $75,000. We came in at $6,500 less at $68,559. Our subtotal for operating costs, we budgeted $414,430. We came in at $16,000 less at $398,204. Under contractual, we were basically flat. Under capital, we spent $701,502 on cars, and we're not going to need those out for another 4 or 5 years. Our total expenditures, we budgeted $8,266,000. We came in at $60,000 higher at $8,326,104. As we look at FYE 20, we're looking at budgeting $7,882,000, and with a maintenance request of $7,825,000, with discretionary expenditures of only $56,350. Anybody got any questions on that?
Well, I have
Michael?
one, but Brian's leaving. I just wanted to confirm with him, and Chief, maybe you know the answer here. I know we're reaching a contract settlement with our police union, and I know we're a year behind on that. I assume that these figures have the adjustments for the increases factored in?
They do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to page 33. We're going to start at 40-4030. Under Darien Fest, we're looking at a discretionary expenditure of $16,000 for police. Discussion.
Well, you're gonna have, you're definitely having the police, so what makes it discretionary? You're almost kind of like having to have it.
Well, a few years ago, we decided not to have it, not to fund the police.
It had to be paid for by the Chamber of Commerce, and we put it back in. And if you recall, a couple of years ago, we revised the agreement, so we adjusted the agreement to factor in that they reimburse us a percentage of their expenses. So the higher their income level, the higher percentage of our expenses they reimburse. But the 16,000, I think, has been a pretty constant figure the last couple of years from.
So is the 16 without reimbursement?
Correct.
So any reimbursement we get would be a bonus?
Yeah, it hasn't been a lot. I want to say it was maybe about $2,500 or so the last couple of years.
Greg, does that include the eye in the sky?
It does not.
Does not?
We haven't used it the last 2
We
years,
haven't
I
used
don't
it the
believe.
last couple of years.
I was just wondering if this year I didn't see it in there, but I was just, because wasn't that to our advantage to have the eye in the sky? Or didn't it really matter?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters. You'd start putting facial recognition and some other things on there to jump up the cost. It might have some value, but
Okay.
I don't think it does that much.
I guess the good news on this is we could maybe anticipate maybe an increase of money coming back with this moving the fest to August. So hopefully the weather is better and we have a more profitable fest and that number can come down.
And I would agree with you. In addition to that, because it's the 50th anniversary of the city, you may have more people actually go out and go to the fest.
Promise it won't rain.
I'm sorry?
Promise it won't rain.
So,
Say that.
anybody have an issue leaving it in?
Now leave it in.
Okay, same thing with 4th of July parade for the 5,000? Same thing?
Yep.
Okay, we'll leave both of them in. K-9 fixed overtime, 13,350. Obviously, I'm always in support of the K-9s because you never know with drug seizures what we can get out of it, but what's your guys' thoughts on it?
Well, I have one question. It's not so much related to the K-9. I think the K-9 in terms of drugs is important, but there was a Supreme Court case that got settled about a week and a half or so ago, Chief, and this is probably part of the broader discussion. I think some of you may remember that a while ago we have one officer, don't we have one officer dedicated to drug enforcement, Chief? And the justification for it at the time I know was he was probably going to be bringing in as much as it cost us and it offered an opportunity for additional training and everything. From what I understand, that Supreme Court case, though, it came out a week and a half or so ago, said that apparently we're not going to be able to share quite as aggressively in the seizure funds that are generated. Can you talk
I
about
have
that?
not heard or seen that
I think what you're referring to is,
document.
I'm sorry, if
No, it's okay.
it's when police officers or municipalities would seize a vehicle that was worth $50,000 on a bust for $5,000 and they'd keep everything.
Yeah.
And that's where the Supreme Court said it had to be equivalent to what the cost of the whatever the crime was, so that if you had you wouldn't be able to make money off of those. It'd have to be more in line with what the crime was.
Yeah, I know in the old days, prior to your time, I believe, Brand, I remember we got a Mercedes out of it once long time ago and got $30,000 or $40,000 for the Mercedes. So that's probably what you're talking about. But I'm wondering, will that impact our operations at all, or is that something you want to take time
Probably
to study?
not.
Or
We do some seizures, limited seizures of property. A lot of times those are more pain than their value. They take the Mercedes in or any vehicle. You usually look at the loan and see how much is left on that loan, and a lot of times just leave them have the car, because to seize it and go through that process is much more difficult. But I haven't seen any recent Supreme Court decisions, so
Yeah.
I've been gone for a week and a half.
And it had to do with the fact that they were trying to trace the purchase of the vehicle to drug money, and that's why.
Well,
they
that
seized
makes
it.
more sense, that they're trying to make,
And that's
there's
why
a
they
nexus
seized it in that
between
case.
the
And this-
property and the actual cocaine or whatever they're dealing, drug
Right.
deal. That makes sense, that
So-
they would look at that.
The court in that particular case, it was a Range Rover, and I think the guy was able to show that he had purchased it prior to. He had a small drug, but it was a small drug bust.
Yeah.
And it wasn't worth a $50,000 or $80,000 Range Rover, but they impounded it.
Gotcha.
And so that's what that case
Yeah.
was about.
So we'll
I
have
don't
to look
think-
at
I
that.
don't think
Yeah,
it should
we'll look
affect
at
that.
that.
If that's the case, and that's typically you don't see that very often. It might be a pretty aggressive police department, or he may not have funds to have purchased that vehicle. So they might have been trying to go through a civil process, saying that he didn't have the ability to purchase that vehicle because he doesn't have work or an inheritance or any other type of income. So they might have tried that route. I'm not sure because I don't have that
I
document.
think they did do that, but I think he was able to show that it was through inheritance. But
Yeah.
because he didn't have a job.
Then it
They're
makes
like,
sense
how do
that
you
he's
have a Range Rover?
able to keep that. Yeah.
Right. But it took a long time.
Yeah.
Like I say, I just brought up because we did look at it as a pay-for-itself type of thing in the past. I just wanted to make sure this wasn't going to be changing
Yeah,
the
I think,
scenario.
if memory serves, I think we have almost 300,000 in that drug forfeiture.
Right, yeah, I know, and we collected
So
quite a bit
quite
the
a bit.
first couple of years, but I know it's been dwindled.
Yeah, it just depends. I think they had suspended that program for quite some time, maybe 6-8 months at one point, and changes some rules as it goes through. So there's been ups and downs in that whole process.
Does anybody have any issues with it? So we'll leave it in? Okay. Let's go to page 34, 40-4203, under auxiliary police, uniforms for 1,000 and vests for 1,000.
No problem.
Anybody got any issues with it or questions?
It was 1,500 last year. Is it going down for a reason or for the uniforms?
What page
Do
again?
we not
Sorry.
use it?
Page 34.
There it is. I got it. It went down because everybody was fully had their uniforms paid for, and I think there was another thing that went down. The vests. So I think
As long
everybody
as the
should be
money-
ready.
As long as we don't need more, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, no issues with it, everybody? Okay, let's keep it in. 40-4205, under training and associations for $1,000 for their boards and commissions.
Have to talk because one guy's
Not sure what-
the other guy's supposed to be in Florida. Next door.
What's, Chief, nothing major with that or anything?
No, that's I think that's a typical. It's been in there every budget that I've been through for 3. I guess I've been here now,
Okay,
and it's pretty typical. And actually, probably less than half of that usually gets spent.
okay. Any issues with it?
Fairly
Okay.
young, 50 years old, 45.
Hello, Thomas. All right, we're at 40-4213 under dues and subscriptions under police. 2,500 for dues and 650 for subscriptions. Is that the same amount that we had before? Or?
Last year
It's
we had
down.
2,600 for subscriptions, so apparently we're not using them.
Well, I think they put a lot of different things in subscriptions. So this year I took quite a bit of bigger look, and we have very few subscriptions: Amazon, magazines, and periodicals, and Notary that we pay out of that. And so anything else that is not truly a subscription, I took out.
Anybody have any issues with the amounts?
I can't believe I'm looking at this police department budget. This is,
It's the leanest.
If you want
I've
more,
ever
I'll
seen.
put more in there.
no, thank you, Chief.
All right.
Thank you, Greg.
We'll go to 35, page 35, everybody. Under 40-4239, public relations materials and supplies for 4,500.
Can I back up a little bit here, Ted?
Sure, please.
Sorry, I know
No, go ahead.
it's in maintenance, but under repairs, maintenance vehicles, repairs are up 5,000 from 10 to 15, and now we've got the new vehicles. I would think that those would be covered by mostly warranty this year. I was just wondering why the 5,000 increase.
When I think we're 20 or a little over $10,000 over this year, so I think we put a little bit of cushion in there for that process. Now this year we did have some issues with getting the vehicles later than we had expected, and so we've had to keep the older fleet operational, which was part of that increase in the amount of funds.
But now you got the new fleet on, so will you need all that?
Well, we still have a number of other vehicles.
We still have
Yeah.
other vehicles that will be cycled out, so we'll still have I think 4 cars that are older that still need maintenance.
The 6 cars you have, those are the ones that you've kept from the
Correct.
just the ones that you just rolled
Correct.
down.
They're just rotating out of the everyday usage fleet into backup vehicles for different purposes.
And then radios, lights, and sirens, that's up $1,300 also. That was
There's when we didn't get new lights for the cars, we kept the old system. They were good. We have an issue with the lenses. It's like a lot of headlights on your car, they get that foggy look to them. So we need to replace the lenses on those vehicles. They're new vehicles, but kept the old light bars. We need to replace the lenses on the light bars.
Any issues, questions? Okay. So back down to 40-4239, materials and supplies for 4,500. What did we have in there last year, Tom?
Same.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with it?
That's promotional materials?
Correct. The stuff that we give out at National Night Out, Coffee with Cop, different things. They're the, I forget what do they call that stuff when you give away to the...
Tchotchkes?
Promotional items?
Yeah, whatever. They have an odd name for it, but yeah, they're the promotional items.
We're at about 2,800 year to date against the 4,500.
Is 4,500 the right number? Is 3,500 the right number? Let's ask that question. It's $1,000, but what do you think?
Well, we could shave numbers off of what we just talked about above, repairs and radio light sirens, for that matter, if we're shaving.
Well, okay. What do you guys think? Just leave the number?
Well, it would seem to me that if we've only used 29 this year, 35 seems reasonable for next year.
Chief, would that be all right for you?
Absolutely. I don't think that when I sent this out to the officers, there was not a increase in changes. I think they did want to look at the 50-year mark and see if there was something that the city was going to do and the police department would follow, but no real change, in 35 will be fine.
Okay. We'll keep it at 3,500. Lower it then. 40-42.
Alderman, what number was that?
It's 40-30.
4239.
4239.
We're changing it to 3,500.
Oh, okay, got
Materials and
it. Got it.
supplies.
Yep.
40-4243 rentals for 3,000. I'm assuming that's for Darien Fest or in general?
That's more of a what-if scenario. So if there's major lines down and we need to rent some barricades, if there's a major issue going on and we need other rental type equipment to come to the scene, that's what that's for.
What do we usually have in that amount?
It's usually 3,000 and usually we don't use it. It's
Yeah, we had 5,500 combined in that account last year. We're currently at about 1,200.
So probably 3,000 is the right number to have, correct?
I'm sorry?
You said you went from 5,500 down to 1,200?
No, the total between the two,
what's-
the 2,500 and 3,000. The amounts that he's requesting are the same as last year. And last year, the total budget between the two of those was 5,500, and we're currently at about 1,200.
Just leave it in there? Let's just leave it in there. We'll move on. 40-4263 training and education. It says $1,850 under discretionary.
Additional classes, besides the ones you were including in 31,000.
Yeah, because last year's budget was huge.
Yeah, there was a number of state mandated requirements that came in play with, can't remember the name of the legislation, the Police Accountability Act or something like that, that required training in use of force, cultural diversity, cultural bias, or implicit bias. There was probably 6 or 8 different things that came up. So we did all the training in year 1. There are some that have to be repeated every year. There's some that have to repeat every 3 years, and there's 1 or 2 that have to be repeated every 4 years. So we had to increase significantly last year to get all that state mandated training done. all the state mandated training is completed until, well, we'll have some ongoing ones for every year, but the big ones every 3 years, we're good for.
Chief, do you send all of the officers through that, or you send a few that come back and
No,
teach the
everyone,
rest?
well, just depends on the best way of doing it. For some, especially in that first year, everybody went. Also in that first year, use of force, and there should be one more. We did a train-to-trainer on. So ongoing, they'll be able to do it in-house. But the initial one had to be done through a service or a vendor.
Brian, I just bring this up because, well, last year was about 38,000 combined. This year we're down to about 33,000, which makes sense. And I know you've got a detailed schedule in here backing it all up. I guess what concerns me is year to date we're only showing $5,314. And it does seem like we've had a lot more training than that. And based on what you're saying, because I know as I'm signing the checks,
Yeah.
there seem to be a lot more. I wonder if some could be getting charged to a different account because it just seems like, and unless a lot of the training is coming up in the next several months, February, March, April.
Well, we do skip the summer, and we do a lot more training during the winter, early spring, late fall. So it may be that you haven't seen those bills yet because we do a lot during the, we kind of curtail it off during the summer.
Does any of any of that training, you can use the funds, the
Seized.
the seized funds for something?
Typically not, because that's an ongoing budgetary item. You can't take it out of the budget to start paying training with seized funds.
If we didn't put it in the budget, could you use it? Could you use the seized funds?
Sure.
Yeah. That's what I meant when I asked the question. Is
Yep.
I know it's once you put something in the budget, you can't use seized funds on it.
Pretty hard, yeah.
Are we just going to keep the 1850 in there along with it? Okay. All right, 40-4265, travel and meetings, IACP, International Association of Chief of Police for 1,500. It's in Chicago this year, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So what will happen is that every 4 years it comes to Chicago. So what we try to do when it comes to Chicago is use my membership to get the sergeants to be able to go to that higher level of training.
Well, my question here is not so much the fourth. Well, it's when we get to the lodging we're up to $4,850 on the maintenance, which is $2,000 higher than last year, and then $4,000 in discretionary. And again, travel and meetings total combined, we had budgeted $14,400 for the current year, and we're at about $4,500. So we're about $10,000 under that right now, and yet we're asking for a $2,000 increase in lodging.
Again, the only explanation I have on where it's being spent currently is whether or not we've spent all the funds yet based on what we had anticipated sending officers to.
But we're increasing the lodging for next year. Are we anticipating more out of town?
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yes.
Mike, is your backup sheet there? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the computer.
I'm
Does it
trying to
have
look
the
at-
lodging broken out? It should.
Yeah.
Lodging, yeah, 4819.
So
I
the
just wanted to make
lodging
sure.
would technically be 8,850 for the IACP, correct?
No, lodging is for a number of different things. Looks about almost 500 for negotiations conference. IDEOA is the drug enforcement conference. Force on Force instructor conference. Master Firearms conference. Tactical fire rifle conference. Emergency management. IEMA. School resource officer, juvenile officers, training. So there's a number of different training.
That just is all encompassed under
This has
lodging.
a 4850 and a 4,000.
Okay.
So it has like 8850 combined, and the backup sheet shows lodging cost 4819.
Yeah, 4819
Correct.
for the lodging cost.
What he's anticipating.
But it shows lodging under maintenance 4850 and then
Oh,
under
and
discretionary
discretionary.
4,000. Yeah.
Oh,
I guess the discretionary from the chief saying there's a bunch of meetings that are encompassing under lodging.
but no, Chief, on the spreadsheet, the
should-
lodging totals,
8850.
4819 in the spreadsheet, but our budget lists for lodging and discretionary and maintenance.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the 4,000 under discretion came from. Probably shouldn't even be there.
Well, I think the discretionary should be there. It's the maintenance that probably shouldn't be there because the spreadsheet shows the lodging all, well, I thought it was part of the discretionary, but I guess it's not.
No, under
I
discretionary is
see what you're
the $1,800 figure.
Yeah, so I think that 4,000 you're right, under discretionary
Come out.
should come out.
It was 4,000 in discretionary last year and 2,000 in budgeted. We had a total of 6,000 last year.
What are we at now? Or- or-
8850.
But he's asking, you said 88?
8850 together, the two.
Okay. And he's anticipating 4819 in lodging with this budget year.
I guess the question is,
Last
if
year
we
the
had
number on-
6,000 last year, is this year going to be the same
No.
as last year or more? Lodging.
Same.
So we could reduce 2,000 for.
Well, you know,
discretionary?
if I could ask, why don't the chief and why don't we take another look at that? And for the button-up item, I can, you know, I just want to talk to the chief a little more, because again, if we're showing 4819, I don't know that there's a reason to show anything
Anything
more
else.
than that.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that that number's solid and we're not missing something in the spreadsheet.
I don't think you are. I think it should be 48.
Yeah, I think
we
so,
just
too.
ran. It's 4813. We just run that up to 4850 as a round, and the 4 can go away.
Okay.
So get rid of the 4?
Yep.
Okay. And then what about the 1,000 for professional meetings then? That should be in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just eliminating the 4,000 discretionary. Okay. Any other questions in police department,
Yeah.
Michael?
Sorry, me again.
please?
Different category.
Under uniforms, the replacement vests were 10,400 versus 3,300 last year. Assume they go through a cycle or something?
That's correct. And it all depends really when there's a start and when that replacement has to happen at the 5-year mark. So probably 5 years ago, or 2020, so 2015 had a number of new officers or a replacement process. So now you're at the 5-year mark, so that has to increase a
As
little
long
bit.
as you've looked
Correct.
at that. Okay.
Any other things with police? Okay, we're going to go back to municipal services,
Chief,
page
you're welcome to stay.
42.
You know what, I might just do that because I want to learn from the master.
Ted, I think I know the answer to this one.
Go ahead, Michael.
One more for you, Chief, so Dan doesn't feel like I'm only picking on him.
Thanks, Mike.
DUMEG, 17,700. That's new, but if I recollect, last year we were able to use seized funds for that.
We've been using seized funds, but we've been using state forfeiture funds, and that is not nearly as income like we do for the federal. And I think we're at $500 or something dollars in that fund right now. Now we do have about 33,000 that we've seized that we're waiting on. But there's no guarantee that you're going to get that money. So I put it in the budget with the anticipation of not having that fund.
So
that
if we
money.
have it, we can make the adjustment.
Correct.
Because
Okay.
that will come
So-
back to the council for approval because it's over 5.
Okay, so the
Right.
fact that it's showing in here.
It's a
we're
little bit
Will that be a
different.
problem with the seized funds?
It's
though?
not, it's a little bit, the way the state looks at seized funds differently than how the feds look at state funds.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be
'Cause
okay.
It makes sense, even if it's 5,500, to use that first, and then hopefully we do get some more.
$11,200.
Yep.
for 20 years.
And we use it along because the gas money that the officer that's assigned to the DEA uses and some other smaller purchases, we use that fund for as well, the state seizure fund.
Okay.
You could ask the chief,
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'm just going back to the uniforms and the new, you have 4 new officers and you have $11,200, do I have the right number? Yeah. For 4 new officers. Is that happening this year?
Well, I don't know. What I do is look at how many officers have enough seniority and enough age to leave the police department and divide by a third. And so there's a possibility that 2 officers would, well, based on that, there's 6 officers who could leave. So a third of that is 2, so that's 2, and then not being able to make it through the FTO program. So that's where that magic number comes from.
How many candidates do you have on the list? Is there an active list right now?
There's an active list. The current list expires, I think, March 7th. It was started off with, I think, 98 names. We're down through number 57 or so. And then the new list, I think we have 48 on it, and the oral interviews start, I believe, next week.
I think we're pretty fortunate. I'm hearing police departments are having a difficult time.
Well, all of them have a difficult time. They estimate about half of what we used to get in applications, and that's what we did too. We had about last testing, I think we had nearly 200, and by the time you go through the process, we were down to 101 or something like that. This time, I think we had 83 applications, and we're down to 48, and we're not done with the process yet. And then even after you come on or get on that list, like I said, I think we're down through name 57. I think we hired 7 off of that list, and I think 5 of them are still with us. You know, others have cycled off.
Greg, didn't you say that they're failing the psychological? A lot of
I think at 57, I think we challenged or struck, I think, a dozen, and I think 6 or 8 of them were the psychological.
Impressive, huh?
Yeah.
That fact.
Kind of scary.
It is scary. You're right.
Yeah, that's a little bit different trend that we've seen in the past. It's a little higher than we've seen in the past process. I asked if we've made a change to what we're looking at for officers, and I was told no. So
All the same
I
criteria.
think it's just,
Nothing, yeah.
correct.
That might be the same problem other departments are having as well with the psychological.
Not with getting recruits. The psychological comes after the list is established. I think there's a lot of different issues with media, politicians, and a lot of different people making the police career look ugly, and a lot of people are not wanting to go into that process.
Did you say that our list expires in the near future?
Correct. The current list expires March 7th. That's why we're in the process of creating a new list.
Do you have funds in here for the new testing?
The new testing is in the
The current
2019
year, yeah,
budget.
Okay,
Correct.
got
Yeah,
it.
we'll be done with
So
it.
we'll be done. We won't expend monies in 2020 for either the police officer or the sergeant. And then I think the following year, because they're done, the officer's done every other year, the sergeant's every 3 years, and it's just a matter of rotation. So the next budget cycle, 2021, we'll be budgeting for both, I think.
Any other things in police? Okay, we're going back to municipal services, page 42. We're going to start under contractual services, 30-4374. Let me know when you're all there.
Give me a moment here. We're back to municipal services, you said?
Yes, page 42.
Let me find that budget. That's right, we stopped at a certain point. I forgot where.
4325, right?
4374,
You just told me.
drainage projects.
Now this one hasn't reduced its size.
I guess I don't have to stick around then.
See you later, Chief.
Thanks for your help, Greg.
No matter how dark it is, keep pulling down the shades. There you go.
Congratulations on whatever efforts we did to get Evergreen out of town. I'm so happy to see that's gone.
Oh, yes.
Yep, very good move.
Okay, 30-4374, drainage assistance project. City share is $81,300.
We need to correct that slightly, and I'm just looking for the backup.
You said 42?
42.
Page 42.
The intention was to keep that where we were at last year. And Dan, I'm looking through these numbers here, I'm sorry, but
I believe the budget was 72,300. 73,200,
72,300 last year.
right, and then we had, for the miscellaneous,
9,000.
9,000,
it should be
correct.
those two numbers again.
Correct.
We added both of those numbers together, the 72 and the 9, and got the 81, so that was an error on our part.
So is 81.3 is not the correct number?
72,003 as the discretionary amount, and 9,000 as the maintenance amount. And we started, at the last budget meeting too, we had a resident come in asking to add an additional project. And Dan's backup shows, we have more projects than the 72.3, but we've stayed at what the council authorized us to spend last year. That would be the constant number unless the council changes it.
And in addition to, I have additional projects for the increase, if the committee would like to hear those in the figures.
Yeah, well, I have a question, Dan. If we go back to the detail as far as what's in here, I'm a firm believer in keeping it the same. I mean, it was a new plan, and we told everybody we're going to sort of keep it the same. There's a lot of demand, but yet if you go through the detail on page 80 that you've got, and maybe this has been updated since, but I look at the 6710 Bentley, and shows project cost estimate 19,000, and yet the participation, I assume you've solicited their people's input, whether they want to participate or not, and you have yeses and nos there, and the person says no, and yet we've got it in the budget at $6,300, if I'm reading that original 81.3 estimate correctly.
And I'm sorry, Mike, you're referring to page 43 on...
No, well, page 80 is what
80
I'm
on
looking
the-
at.
Your projected projects page.
Right, so that may have been updated, okay? Recently, we've gotten all the requests back, so 6710 Bentley specifically is a no. Okay, so that would not be included in there anymore. Currently, what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 projects plus the resident that was here the other evening. That would be 14 proposed projects that are currently yes. We originally had an additional 5 of those. Those 5 have now been deleted as of last week due to affirmative no's, because we sent out a couple surveys already. So does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying, so some of those have been deleted from the schedule that got in my packet?
Correct. Yeah, 601 and 609 71st Street is probably another one you have in there, correct?
Yep. Is that,
Okay,
that's
that
out?
one's
That's out?
out.
Okay.
Dan, we still, even given those projects are out,
Oh, yeah,
you still have 72.3 to spend, given the other projects on the list, right?
Additional, correct,
Okay.
yeah, so, and just to get back to Mike's point, project number FYE 20-5, 7618, 7622 Stratford Place, that one's out. FYE 20-7 project number, that one's out. FYE 20-12 and 13 are both out. So if we were to look at my revised totals now, the project cost estimate with the resident that was here last night would be approximately $163,000. Of that $163,000, the city contribution would be approximately $104,300. The resident's contribution would be approximately $54,000. So the $72,000 that's in the budget today, we would have basically a $29,000 shortfall to cover approximately, I'll call it 4 projects. So the question comes back to the committee whether or not they would want to fund the projects that we have put forth now in the amounts I just recited.
Are you talking about the Evergreen one with the couple that was here last week?
Yes,
So that's the 140,000 with that.
100, well, it's 162,000 for total project cost. Our contribution for that would be 104,000, which would include Evergreen.
We should include every, because I went over there the other day and I talked to both of them. I took pictures of their backyard. They talked about the tubing in the backyard. It runs all the way from the house all the way to almost to the lot line in the back. And I walked the front yard where previously the sump pump was draining towards the front. And even as cold and windy as it was Sunday, that grass is still wet and mushy. In fact, you have a, what do you call that, a sawhorse out
Yeah.
there in the street because water was forming out in the street and it was ponding up in the street. And again, they're concerned, they said in the wintertime, it's easier to have that tube there because they're not using their backyard. But even in the backyard, it's wet in the back by that tree. They said in the summer, if it doesn't get fixed this year, they have that tubing in the backyard. You know, their concern is, can they remove that tubing in the backyard? They could, because they know they got in trouble by having that drain towards the front. You know, and I know they have a wedding coming up and all that. They were sharing all that information with me. So they wanted to know if they could take it out in the summertime if the project doesn't get done this year.
The simple answer is no. And the reason no, a lot of these sump pumps, what develops, and in this particular case, they don't have sidewalks there, but nonetheless, what'll happen is the water will develop, the residue will develop a slime. That slime is very slippery. We're currently in litigation with a resident that slipped and fell due to a sump pump concern, of which caused this green slime across the sidewalk. So again, you know, from a liability standpoint, the answer is no.
Now, were they the one extra or were there three other extras that you
There were
wanted?
three others. Unfortunately, the way this one slices, they would have to pick up the entire cost of the project. There's nothing to slice out because they're at the top of the hill.
This family indicated to me Sunday, and they said Dan should have a letter because the neighbor to the east said yes, they would participate in the project. And she said Mr. Gombick should have their letter signed saying that they do agree to pay a portion of that.
And while I have that, I still again, I don't know if I have that letter or not. From their conversation, they were willing to pick up the cost, as was for all the parties. Now, at the same time, I was waiting for tentative budget approval to send out another letter, be survey 2 or 3, basically a domino effect, asking if those residents are still interested or if there's, in this particular case, the answer is yes, because they've already committed to it verbally without a second or third letter, whatever the case is. I just didn't want to keep sending out additional letters if we were going to remain at a status quo level.
I mean, my concern here is this family has agreed to it. They've agreed to the whole payment, resident payment, and now they've got the next door neighbor who's agreed to be participants, whereas we got other projects here where you have one person and the other ones are all no. I mean, they're working to get other people signed up for this.
While they're working on it, it's first come, first served. They're currently last on the list. So if the funding is status quo, they would not have the opportunity to participate this year.
On number 20-9, Dan, there's 1 yes and 4 no responses on mine. Has that been updated? Because basically the total cost is $27,000. The city's paying 14, residents paying 12.
The answer is yes. We've reduced that project. Again, I was kind of waiting. That project particularly, it originally involved 3 people. We can shorten the project up, and basically it'd be a savings of approximately, I'm going to say, slicing $5,000 to $6,000 across the board.
Total, though, not the city's share.
If we slice it across the board, it would be 27, let's say 20,000. The city contribution would be approximately 9,000, and the residents, also would be approximately 7,000, 5 to 7,000. So, again, I'm waiting. In this particular case, the resident was to have spoken with the other neighbors to see if there was some convincing of those two neighbors. So while it's not 100%, I should say that figure is not 100%, it sounds like it's going to go either way, but it will be reduced some. And again, next thing, with the second letter, third letter going out there to those residents, they all may participate, so I don't want to short myself. But if they, whatever is approved here, keep in mind, we'll come back to the city council in a full format of the dollars that will be allocated.
Yeah, well, my concern is, I mean, the numbers you're talking about, you said 104.3 for the city, and really comes out to 109, because you're saying the total estimate is 163, and the resident is 54. So I'm sure there's some rounding or whatever is going in there. So now the city's 109 versus the 73. So we just said we're reducing that number from 83 down to 73, but you're asking for more. So I'm not sure exactly what direction we're going.
Well, let's clear up what Dan's asking for. When Dan and I looked at the budget, we both agreed we were going to put all the projects in here, so it would have been much more. Then we got level-headed and said, well, the council last year gave us a number, so we should stick to that, but we want to present all the projects. So the only reason this number is lowered is because we made an error in the math and said 81, when it should have been 72.3. But originally, though, Dan and I were going to suggest that because these projects are so helpful to residents, that we were going to suggest try to do them all this year. And I didn't look, and originally I didn't look at it necessarily at what the council said last year. I just thought, again, they were good projects. I looked at fund balances, and over time, is the city able to afford those? But, I understand there are limits, and if somebody doesn't get it done this year, they get worked into the schedule next year or two out. But I think that's the real question again. What is the funding level the council wants for these projects?
Dan, besides Evergreen, are there others that are on a waiting list as well?
Oh, sure. Probably.
That have contacted you, said we'd like to have a rear yard drainage fix.
They're the last and greatest. I'm sure during the spring and summer, or especially during the spring, we'll start to develop another inventory. So that's why we started a classification system of when these projects are,
But as of today, Dan, that's it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's it. We don't have any more. We don't have a C list of things. What you have on that is all the requests we have to date.
Right.
Correct.
Tom, Joe, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think it's a great program. I took advantage of it last year, and it's amazing what my neighbors' backyards look like. They had, water standing 40% of the time. It's huge puddles where ducks would be in there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it didn't affect my house all that much, except when there was a rain event, I would have it drain through my yard, but then in a day or so it would be gone. But the other people, they had it year round. They had water there. So, I think these are great things, and we're talking about increasing it by about 40% or $30,000.
Correct.
I would support it. I think if we're going to do it, we got to do all of them on the list. We can't move Evergreen ahead. Right. I'm trying to go through the numbers here and looking at some of the other things. Is the FYE 20-8 says 3 no, 1 yes. It's not a big project, but is the 1 yes willing to write the check for the full? They are. So that one's in.
Right.
And you said in Darien Club, you said it's going to be several thousand less.
Right. And right now, it's again, I did not want to take the opportunity to say, okay, there's going to be 2 for sure, because there still may be 3 on this final letter. The one gentleman was on vacation, so it was unsure whether or not that original person was going to make contact with him, or he could make contact with him while he was on vacation. So,
My only objection is we set this up a couple years ago and said, and I agree, it's a good program, but we set it up a couple years ago, setting up at this basis. Not very dissimilar to our ditch programs. And we said our ditch programs were going to allocate $1 million, $1.3 million, or whatever the amount was per year to try and make some progress at it. Yeah, it would have been nice to do those every year as well. And you say there's money in the budget. Well, there's money in the budget, but we're transferring less and less. So you can see by the time we get to year 3 in the capital projects, there isn't that much in there. So you start front-ending this thing and increasing the amounts, there's less and less there. So that's my only objection.
I guess my only point to
marketed
that
it-
was these are going to be permanent solutions to these problems.
They are permanent solutions.
So there is a finite list of people that are going to need this, and that eventually will go away, just like our
Well,
ditch
the
projects.
same as the ditches, right, but we have been budgeting so much per year
Mm-hmm.
on those as opposed to, I mean, even our sewer projects, should we do it all at once? Or should we spread it out and just make sure, because we don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know what's going to happen with the pension funds or anything else.
But Michael, it was 72, and we did set the figure at 72, but we, at one time, only did $5,000 or less drainage project, rear yard drainage projects. And then we started discussing the bigger projects, these people who had $20,000 worth of drainage, and we upped that. And then we upped it again to 72. So, I mean, we've met the need by raising that. So that 72, I don't see that as being fixed in stone. I see that as something that for $30,000 more, getting 4 more projects done, you're increasing people's property values because you're solving a problem and an issue they have in the backyard. Everybody benefits from that.
And I think from an inflationary standpoint too, because if you have the ability to take a couple extra projects here in 2019, 2020, as opposed to, 2022, 2023, not knowing, what the cost of materials are going to be at that point, I think it's a good time to kind of put up a couple extra projects.
We're gonna have to agree with it.
Along those lines, I mean, originally too, that's the other thought we had. Obviously, the budget's the 3-year budget, and I agree with what Mike said. The more we spend now, the less we have for future to put into capital. But if our 3-year budget, if we raised it this year, we can lower it the second year or third year, which is almost, Joe, what you're saying.
Right.
Now, whether more projects will come next year, I'm not sure. But, if we can adjust it over the 3-year budget and have funds available, I mean, I think it's something that's doable financially. But I would adjust the second year out or the third year, so in that 3-year window, that fund balance would stay the same. I think, again, we all are saying now the projects are worthwhile, but not only are they worthwhile, without the city involvement, nobody would do this on their own. I don't think, not even for the grant involved, but the coordination. Tom, you could imagine if you and your neighbors just tried to get together to do this, it wouldn't happen.
Well, they're done correctly, Brian.
Yes,
Whether- if these residents did it on their own and had to hire people to do it, how do we know the quality? At least we know now these are being done correctly.
Thomas, are you there?
Tom?
Yeah, that's here.
What do you think?
You want to weigh in, Tom?
I guess my only concern is that I guess I thought, it's a great program, helps a lot of people. But, certain people have waited a year to live, and so put additional 3 or 4 different projects, right, people that waited, and budget, I guess. But I guess I would look at 10,000 or 2,000, but I'd rather cap it and sit there, but we getting for every year and potentially 3 or 4 more projects sidewalks. I don't get for this whole end cap or whatever need. But I see 2 or 3 projects I work summer rest with. I don't know ever it's all completed, but whatever amount we have, I put going forward. It's a great program, but it keeps eventually you have to start a line. Because as more people find out of it, next year you might have 5 or 6 that want to do it. You might get 140. My concern is that it's growing all the time.
Well, we do have a light, Dan, I mean, maybe you can shed some light on the fact that we do have a light at the end of the tunnel on the other major drainage issues in the city of Darien. We will have pretty much within the next year or two, completed most of the drainage, and that, all of that revenue that we are spending on those projects will now become free.
That's,
But-
that,
but
the
you-
funds,
That's already factored in the budget, though.
Yeah, but just to clarify that too, Mayor, when we're saying, you know, you're really referring to the ditch projects, which is
Yeah,
what
not
you
the
meant.
rear- I'm- yeah, the
But
ditch
but
project.
not even, I mean, we also have, as you'll see when we get to capital, storm sewers, Dan, that we're starting to work on that are expensive. We haven't allocated any money for the creek that goes through the school. So there are some things we have not allocated money for, but you're right about the ditches. The big program that we've been working on for 15 years is coming to an end.
And that revenue can be looked at for other projects, yes.
and just an additional comment to Alderman Clistic's comments. There are residents that we do say no to. So, you know, I mean, there's some self-induced problems that residents, you know, we give them the advice, or, and, you know, we'll work with them with a vendor to provide a solution. So by somebody calling us up and saying, I have a puddle in my yard, doesn't automatically qualify for this project. So there is some criteria to this.
That's a good point, Dan.
Dan, can I get a little clarification? On the list on page 80 of the 14 projects, you said 1, 5, 7, 12, and 13 were eliminated. Is that
Correct. That is correct.
I add up to $114,140-ish plus Evergreen. How much is Evergreen?
Evergreen.
And that's not even counting the reduction on Darien Club. So I guess I'm
The
confused.
figures
as to-
may be a little bit off based on some of the revisions on the yeses or nos. So again, for example, for a total of all the projects excluding, that one's not excluding.
So I mean, I had
Prior to the exclusion, there was 282,000. After the exclusion of those other projects and some adjustments and the 10,000 for Evergreen, the amount should be $162,400
Minus the 54.
minus 54. I'm
Or
sorry.
is it 160?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, minus, if we're talking about Darien Club, to subtract out Darien Club, sure, you know, that we could easily subtract out probably 7,000 on that one. So 162.
I'm just adding up the numbers and they don't add up. I guess that's my
You
point.
might have a different spreadsheet because this was all revised. I'm going off a
Oh,
different.
okay.
Okay.
So that may be
Well,
why.
there's
Tom, what's your
there's
first
9
number?
projects, so can we do them real quick? I mean, I have 14,145 for number 2,
Okay. 10,034.
1034 for the next one.
Right.
Whoops. Sorry. 16,000 even for the next one.
Correct.
4551 for number 6.
Correct.
6,500 for number 8.
Correct.
27,383. I'm leaving it at that right now for Darien Club.
Right.
12,365 for number 10.
Correct.
3,536 for number 11.
Yes.
And 19,605 for Scotch Pine.
Correct.
And then Evergreen.
Well, I'm sorry. No, then you should have.
Am I missing
White,
something?
yes. Next is White Pine Trail.
Okay, it's not on here. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so
12,000.
that's what it is. Okay.
What Pine Trail, how much is that?
So that's number 15?
Correct.
Okay, and how much is that one?
12,256.
Okay.
1524-28-32 Willow Creek. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, we're gonna take that. Yeah,
Take this 10 out.
it's not evergreen, so we're gonna take that 10,000 out. So we've already got it's 1524-28 and 32 Willow Creek Lane. Joe, that's your residence that we're referring to. So that $10,000 that I spoke of earlier is a moot issue. So again, that number will be $14,658.40. I'm sorry, $14,600 for that project. The next one is 6914 Sierra Drive. That project is 57. And 2951 Meadow and 2940 Harvest. That's 35, call it 3,500. And for that amount, right, exactly. So that amount is revised to 152, 449.
Okay.
The city's share in this particular case will now be 97,793. Residents' share will be 50,556. Figures I said earlier, disqualify those figures. The figures I just presented now are the figures.
Now it's about a $25,000 jump.
Correct, from 70 to 72.3.
We got 3 yes, Tom's no. Any other?
Alderman MacGyver said she supports the ditches, but only at the current budget amount and not increase it.
Okay.
But, one of the things that, the budget meetings are for is, to weigh options, and some things become more important than others. So, if the city council wants to think about more money, then a couple options are look through the budget, things we've already talked about, or things we'll be talking about the rest of the evening, maybe cut those out. Again, when you're cutting money out, whether it's this year or any other year, the options are that money gets transferred to capital projects. That's our goal, and that's really what we need to do over the long term. But again, if you don't do that, there could be other things. I'm not going to bring up the fireworks, but I'm going to bring up the fireworks. Every year, the council, we have a discussion about that. But now if we're looking for, 40,000 or 30,000, there are some things that maybe we talked about that we could think through to see if, or the council could say, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to stick at that 72, and because that is going to go to the fund balance, no matter if we have fireworks or not. So again,
So bottom line is we're talking going from 72,000 to 97. Is that the final number basically?
For the city contribution, correct.
Okay, so we got 3-1 and it comes down to me. I'm going to tell you
is
guys.
there any contingency in that? I mean, is 100 a better
Yes.
number? That's a good number. Okay.
Yes,
For contribution for city?
For our share.
That does not include Evergreen.
it does. It's not Evergreen, it's Willow, that's where I'm sorry, that's where, it's Willow Creek.
Willow Creek.
We're going towards Evergreen, but we had a different situation on Evergreen, but that's a whole nother subject matter.
This summer, I talked with 3 people in my subdivision that were complaining about their neighbors with rear yards drainage, and I explained to them this program, and they had no idea about it. And that's out of 130 homes. The point I'm trying to make is if there's people talking about it that just found out about it, there's a lot more that are going to need to know about it, and they're going to want to do it. I have no problems doing the 97,000. What is your guys' thoughts? Was it 4, or what are we going to do it?
I'm in.
Tom?
Yes.
I'm in.
All right, so we'll raise it to 97,000.
Actually, 97,793 or 790.
790.
The number's going to say 98,000, everybody.
Fine, terrific.
I thought we was at 100,000. What are
Well,
we doing here?
Well,
No,
the total
that's-
project is 152,000. What Joe, Alderman Marquez was referring to, Evergreen, was already in here as Willow Creek, so there was a little bit of confusion with Evergreen and Willow Creek. So the resident that was here the other evening is on Willow Creek, not on Evergreen. It's just where we're going to is
Previously,
Evergreen.
Site.
Let's go down to 30-4375, Emerald Ash Borer removal of dead branches and total removals, entire town, 25K. Dan, what's going on?
Correct. Basically, what that is, there still could be some lingering effects of some ash trees that may need to be removed. Again, we wanted to put a comfort zone in there just in case that does occur. Most of the ashes are doing very well. But again, there's going to be some potential. We've reduced this budget from last year, if you recall, quite significantly as well.
Dan, has John gone around to earmark these trees that have to be trimmed? And
Since last year, we've trimmed them all. But now, again, we want to make sure there's some money so we're not coming back to the city council in case something does happen that the ones that were trimmed last year, let's say that they're really decaying without us knowing. So we wanted to make sure there was some opportunities there for the funding.
okay.
One of the things that we have applied for, have not heard back yet, So I'm not counting on it, but we have a application into the state for our previous Emerald Ash program and anticipating to get a $100,000 grant. All the paperwork's been filed. I called and followed up on that, and the grant is just in the state for review. So hopefully that will come through, but
Nice.
nothing's definite yet.
Be
Nice.
terrific.
Yeah.
So is 25 a good number? Anybody have any issues with it? Okay, we'll leave it in. Thomas?
He said nope.
Thank you. 75th Street behind Home Depot, clearing of dead and diseased trees for $35,000. Didn't we do that before? Or do
No,
we-
this was a different location, as a matter of fact. This is another location that's directly behind a Home Depot. If you recall, we had a resident there petition to place a shed in there. It's call it the Conservation Natural Area several years ago, and it's really just a natural area. The problem with that natural area is there's a lot of branches trees that are decayed, trees that are coming down, and the goal of this was basically to take down the dead, remove the hazards. People are still walking through there. It is city property, and what you're referring to specifically was along the Home Depot fence and Walmart, not Walmart fence, Murray's, up to Murray's auto store over there. We had trimmed all those bushes because the fence was at, the actual trees were pushing the fence, and the fence wasn't ours.
Okay.
This is the actual forest, call it the forested area itself.
Dan, is this the
there's-
area behind Carol's house? then?
Yes,
That
yes.
side of the Home Depot?
This is the buffer area.
Correct. It's a buffer area, and it's referred to as the conservation area.
Right.
And 35,000 accurate number then?
Yes.
If it cleans
Safety
it
and
out and makes it
concern,
look
anything?
better, it'll be worth it.
I'm sorry?
I mean, the area does not look nice the way it is now.
No,
Those trees look
it
terrible.
definitely needs some manicuring, and again, when I say manicuring, we're not going in there taking out scrub. This is the removal of dead and/or anything that's an invasive species.
Safety, we'll keep it in. Michael?
Yeah, Ted, I would just, if you're done with that, I just need to back up a minute.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, account 4359, Brian and Dan. Last week I brought up the Energy Commonwealth Edison. We had $30,000 that we budgeted the prior year, and now it's had a note that it's in MFT, and yet I said I didn't see it in MFT. Did you review that?
Yeah, I have the MFT revisions to hand out, which includes that. So I added, it was in the spreadsheet. It did not get picked up, but I fixed that. And we also have, in the MFT, have increased the salt expense. So
Okay, so we'll have
I
a,
have that tonight to hand out, but we're not to there yet, so I didn't hand it out
okay,
yet.
so we will have another $30,000 in MFT as a result of
Correct.
just this piece, okay?
Correct.
No issues with 4375 on 75th Street, the Home Depot? Okay, let's go down to 30-4815 under equipment. Truck 101, 9-ton dump truck, snow and plow for 216. 101 is what? How, is it 10 years now old?
It's a 2008.
11 years old.
By the time we get it, it'll probably be
12.
winter of,
This is one of the ones we use for one of our snow zones, correct?
yes. Yes.
Anybody have any issues with it? Okay. It's part of our vehicle program, correct? And it's due. Okay.
Yes.
Same thing with tractor number 204, Cat TH 357 for 118, or is that something new?
That's a replacement.
Same thing, replacement? Okay.
Yes.
Plenty long.
Any issues with it? Okay. Tractor number 205, Cat 440 BHL for 148.
Oh, you're the
It's a replacement.
That's a replacement.
Replacement vehicle? Okay.
Just a sec, Dan.
Yes.
We're going to go with the Peterbilt now in terms of the 9 tons, correct?
Yes.
We're getting away from the other.
Correct.
Yes.
Internationals we're backing away from.
Why are we getting rid of, just out of curiosity?
The internationals?
Yeah.
The internationals have been having some severe I'll call them EPA concerns, EGRs, and I forgot what else that's
Yeah.
referred to.
It's all with the emissions related components to the engine. And so last year we had 2 big trucks go down in one snowstorm with engine problems, and one was covered under warranty. The other one cost us like $15,000 on a truck that's not that old. So we strongly backed away from, there's lots of communities that have backed away from internationals and gone the route of Peterbilt.
And we've tried extensively to try to reach out to representatives. As a matter of fact, Alderman Klistic was We just had some conversations. He's well versed in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman Clistic, I think we had some conversations in regards to some of the concerns that International has had. It's gone.
Ben Clistic?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, no, they had a lot of issues. So,
Just out of curiosity, on the Peterbilt for 216, isn't that less than the last time we replaced it, or am I missing something?
It is. The reason is this one's only a single axle truck, and the one we're buying right now is a double axle for the rear. So this one's like a 9-ton dump truck, where that one is an 11-ton dump truck. So it's a little bit smaller. The second axle on the one we're buying right now will cost you the extra money. That's why this is a little bit cheaper.
Gotcha. But it does the job, what we need.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Similar size to the truck that we have right now that's in that section.
Okay. Tractor 205 Cat 440 BHL, we said that's a replacement too for the
Yes.
vehicle program. Okay. All right. Tractor 207 zero-turn Kubota mower.
That's a replacement.
This is the one, Dan, where it's going to shoot the grass out of the back rather than the side?
Yes.
So that when we're doing 75th, we're not shooting it out onto the
Yes.
street?
Correct, and we do have safety chutes that have been modified, a lot of those too, but again, so simple answer is yes.
Unit 311 sod cutter for 5,500. Do we have a sod cutter now or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a replacement.
Replacement.
How often do we, the reason I ask is like sometimes you see when they put that green mesh on there, on trucks, what are we cutting sod for? Just
Water main break restorations, smaller public works restorations,
Plow damage.
plow damage, yeah.
they don't typically use the green.
Most
Green
of it,
matting, yeah, no, the green matting is selective, if it's a field or, for example, by a Nantucket basis, for example, we're not gonna go and put sod in there. In that particular case, we would use seed and that green matting that you're referring to, Excelsior blanket is the technical name for it.
Yeah, most of our restorations, just to reiterate what Dan's getting at, is we do sod. So we replace with what we tore out.
I resident on my block that had the green matting. I was asking.
That
It might not
be,
have been us.
Was it us?
Or was it comment?
Oh
or
wait, no,
something?
it might not have
Comment,
been. It
maybe?
might not have been.
I don't think so.
Thank you, Alderman Kenny.
Probably Nightcore. I don't know, just guessing.
The omission on that one.
Think about that. I have to go back to my notes on that one.
On the borderline between us and the township?
Okay.
No, so we're on this side. So anyway, keep going.
Additional Kubota zero-turn mower again, so we're going to get 2 of these, correct?
Correct. It's a really a very efficient mower, and with the zero turn, the capabilities of it are, time savings, efficient, and very productive.
Okay.
Chris, I'm not sure if you want
No,
to add anything.
yeah, I mean, 100%. That's exactly what Dan's saying is true. And having the third one gives us the ability, when we have the summer kids, to get an extra person on the mowers, take advantage of dry weather. We're always trying to beat that rainstorm and stay out of the basins when they're wet and all those things. So, and then it also gives us the ability to not fall behind once we have to have something in for maintenance.
Okay.
So it just kind of allows us that little bit better flexibility.
Any issues with it? Trailer mounted, I can't
Attenuator.
attenuator, thank you. 18,500 K safety, half goes to water, so
Everything in the
9250.
back.
Water would be
Oh,
9250.
okay, safety item.
Dan, have we had issues with, when we're putting up banners where we have this trailer and somebody has hit it from the back, or?
We don't have, this is a safety item, so, again, the department spoke of this and we felt it was a good idea. As you see them on, Illinois Department of Transportation on the highways, they're a little, obviously the ones on the highways are a little more heavy duty than what we're looking at.
This is the one where it comes out like that, and then goes back. It looks like a,
There's a picture and I'm not
Picture in there.
It's a rectangular
Yeah.
trailer.
that absorbs any,
Yeah, it's supposed to absorb the majority of the impact. It's not going to absorb it all, but it's
Oh.
meant for a definite safety barrier.
Yeah, it's one big bumper there.
Well, as many people as I see still talking on cell phones and
It's
driving. it's a
scary
good
out there.
idea. Yep.
It really is.
We had a guy in Itasca, in the building where Gallagher was 2 years ago. He must have been talking on his cell phone, and one of the landscapers, it had the lift with the fork out. He ran right into it.
Oh, my God.
He's lucky he was alive.
Keep in mind, 83rd Street, DuPage County, they were watering.
High where it went
Went
into.
right into his windows in his car. Yeah.
DuPage County,
lucky-
was
he
it
was
a
lucky he
vendor
was
that
alive.
was, or was it one of their vendors was
Usually so.
watering trees up on 83rd Street, just west of Plainfield, west of Lamont Road, 4 or 5 years ago?
Something like that.
And basically got killed.
All right, let's leave that one in. I don't want to hear any more. Let's just leave that one in. All right. Small equipment trailer, 4,000, half to water, so $2,000 each. What's the small equipment trailer?
To haul around,
Thanks, Joe.
mowers.
No, we have the sod roller that we bought a couple years ago, and a couple other small things. Even that Skyjack that we bought, we use it for around the clock tower. So we're kind of using a trailer, an old trailer that was for our old or for our asphalt roller, and we kind of use that right now. But we
Pretty
need something.
deteriorated,
Yeah,
yes.
it's missing a fender. It's time that it needs its
Safety
own.
issue, Dan, did you say?
I would say at this point, it's beyond safety, yes.
Oh, by the way, did you, one of our banners flew down in the windstorm on Sunday. Did you find it?
No, we didn't find that one. I don't believe. We found quite a few that got damaged. We had
Yeah.
a couple that were split in half.
Yeah.
Some others that were got ripped. So yeah.
I kept looking in backyards on the east side of Cass Avenue thinking it would blow in there, but
I found one a couple of weeks ago on the corner of Linden and Janet. So yeah, after another windstorm. So yeah.
okay.
All right, so any issues with it? Okay.
Red bows for Christmas.
Yeah, that was the next one. What's the
Yes, he's
story?
happy
Red
with
bow
that.
ties
Just
for
mention
Christmas
it,
trees?
and there it is.
Mayor Weaver, I'll let you explain that one.
Safety
Well-
item?
That was good.
First I asked for the wreaths, okay? So then they come in and they're all green and it's like, what did you order? But they needed red bows to make them stand out. So because I guess you guys cannot put them under the light because there's no way to put the brackets under the light.
Became a conflict,
Yeah,
yes.
so you had to put the wreaths above the light, and without that bow on there, they just disappeared in the nighttime.
Yeah, they definitely needed they need something. I mean, obviously, city council authorized us, we had some savings from last year's project, so we did get the wreaths, and the wreaths, did not come with a red bow. So these are basically an enhancement to the holiday season,
See the bows not included sign on the side of the box?
we'll kill the messenger, okay?
No? You throw me under the bus a couple times and right back at you, okay?
Oh, boy. Okay.
Touche.
Boy, oh, boy. Okay.
I don't know what to say on this
I
one.
think we should keep the red bows.
Yeah,
in there.
I think so.
Well, the one thing, at least $4,000 of bows, you hold on to them. $4,000 of fireworks, they're gone. So, I mean, put it in perspective, okay?
Don't even bring up fireworks anymore. John.
Okay, we've already passed that budget.
That's a dead issue.
I take it nobody has any issues with the $4,000 red bows? Okay. Any other issues we wanted to talk about in municipal services?
It's all necessary
Okay,
equipment.
exactly. And the vehicles are on the programs,
Right.
replacement programs, so we're good to go with that.
Yes.
So, 7:51. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to start up on capital projects.
Hey, Dan, you have, I think, fiscal year 21 or something. We have a
Okay.
sidewalk.
We're going to go to capital projects fund budget, where it's page 110. We're going to look at FYE 19 budget. We transferred from the general fund. We actually budgeted $2,450,000. We actually increased that $550,000 to $3 million. Our property tax budget income was $193,000. We came in $2,000 higher at $195,000. Our interest income, we budgeted $25,000. We actually came in at $70,000, which is a $45,000 increase. So our total revenues for FYE budget for the capital projects was $2,668,000. We came in at $597,000 higher at $3,265,615. Under expenses, capital, ditch drainage projects, we budgeted $1,959,700. We actually came in at $85,000 less at $1,875,000. Under the sidewalk replacement, we budgeted $161,625. We basically came in pretty flat at $160,000. Crack seal program, we were flat. Curb at $154,177. Under curb and gutter program, we budgeted $433,335. We came in at $42,000 less at $390,827. Under equipment, other projects, we don't budget anything. They put down as a cost, which is $142,700 is what we actually came in at. Under street reconstruction, we budgeted $1,294,100. We came in $135,000 less at $1,158,623. Bond payment, we budgeted $194,427, came in $3,000 higher at $197,615. Consulting professional services, budgeted $47,500. We came in at $2,000 less at $45,500. Our subtotal for this area, we budgeted $4,244,868 in expenses. We came in $120,000 less at $4,124,442. Our available balance at the end of FYE 18, we were budgeting $6,122,000. We actually came in at $5,924,373, which is basically $198,000 difference. Under our estimated actual, okay. All right, I'm sorry, my apologies. We actually came in at $6,122,000, so we actually came in an increase of $198,000. Our net fiscal year change, we budgeted a negative $1,576,000, but with the increased revenues and the decrease in expenditures, our net fiscal year change was a negative $858,827. We never used our $500,000 in reserve budget, okay? So the bottom line was our FYE 19 budget, our available balance was supposed to be $3,847,000. We actually came in at $5,263,000, which is an increase of $1,415,000. As we go out to FYE 20 and what we're looking to budget for, okay? We're basically looking at revenues of $3.2 million. We're looking at expenditures of $6.1 million for a fiscal year change of a negative $2,908,000. That would actually bring our budget and our reserve, total budget down to $2,355,179. If we don't use the $500,000, that's where it will be at. But we're going to take into account that we would use the $500,000 as an emergency, and we'd be at $1,855,179. As we go to FYE 21, we're basically looking at available balance after revenues as expenditures being at $1,614,000. In reality, if we don't use the 500, we're at $2,114,000. And at FYE 22, we're basically looking at an available ending budget at $1,053,000. But if we don't use $500,000 there, we'll be at $1,553,000.
Ted, one question. You mentioned the 500 balance, and you called it the emergency fund.
Right.
I think we should probably make sure everybody's clear on that. I think in the past, if it was allocated that or economic development, I recall it was allocated in the event that we have some economic development come up, and not necessarily if a bridge collapsed. Obviously, it's all in the same fund, but just that I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that the council's all in agreement. That's the
It could
intent
be,
of that.
and that's a good point.
It could
Emergency
be.
fund, anything kind of reserved, like you were saying, basically.
Okay.
We have not touched it, but as Brian was saying, when Walnut collapsed, we started this process of putting 500,000 on reserve in case of whatever we may need it for, and we have not touched it since then.
So Brian, what you're saying is if, let's say, we got a tenant who wanted to build on the corner of Cass and Plainfield Road and wanted some type of incentive from the city of Darien, this is the money we would use.
Yeah, that it's unknown, or, if Chuck's wasn't there and they were coming today, that would be another example of, that would give us the ability then to have some money set aside for the developer
Right.
assistance.
Okay, so let's go to page 111. Let's start with capital with 25-35-4376. Our stormwater ditch projects, I'm going to take them all in combination. 67th Street to Clarendon Hills to Cass Avenue is $1,700,000. Elm Street, Clarendon Hills Road to Route 83, $721,000. Janet Avenue to Clarendon Hills Road to Route 83, $565,000. Seminole Storm Sewer Manhole Rehabilitation, 75th Street, McDonald's to Seminole Plainfield Road Storm Sewer Lining, $500,000 for a total of $3,486,000. With us doing this, how much do we have left in ditches
As
approximately?
far as the ditches go, we have approximately 2 miles left, and they're all smaller streets, without not going into recital. We're basically done.
I'm spending on something.
No.
You don't think municipal building? You don't think pensions?
I'm telling you, that number,
Oh, you're right.
How much,
having a debate over here. It's not a debate. It's an argument.
They'd only got budgeted.
Who's winning? It's critical to know who's winning the argument.
It's Mr. Corrigan and I are discussing, I guess is the word.
so if we have 2 miles left of ditch projects, how much have we gotten done so far? Just
We'd see total miles of ditches we have is
Amazing.
almost 27.
Since I've been mayor, we've done all these.
So percent,
Since the basins were built.
basically 2 miles left out of 20. We did approximately 23,
We've improved the
27.
value of many homes.
so the
Yeah,
bottom,
26, 23 miles, 23 points, 3 miles.
we're about 90% done, is what
Yes.
you're saying. Once
So
we-
Dan, if my sheet is right, the ones we both have, we have Bentley left for 175 and 21, and 74th place for 375 and 21.
Correct, there's a
Those
couple
are the-
small miscellaneous
Yeah, but those are the
ones.
main two, I think,
Right.
or length you're mentioning.
I
Exactly.
remember sitting back a number of years ago, I don't know if Tom or Joe were on the council, Kathy may remember this, maybe Ted, where we actually looked at what it would cost us if we just did them all and got them all done right away. And we were thinking it would take us to 2022 to get all this done. And now it looks like we're really on forecast to be done by 2022.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And, we've been discussing the dollars spent on these projects, and it's like, we can't even put a price on the value that we've given to homes in Darien because we've done these projects. There's no way we can value it.
I mean, I remember when we would, you remember when we had the houses on Elm over there by Hinsdale South High School?
Behind Gary Roth's house.
Yeah. And
There were islands in a storm.
yeah, I went over there the other day, we were
The
going,
whole house was
and that lot
surrounded.
still sold, and with DuPage County, we went in and bought those homes and tore them
Yeah,
down.
remember?
And we couldn't do anything until the basins were built in terms of really
I remember
redirect.
visiting, that was my ward too, that was Ward 4 back then, still, that was part of Ward 4 then. I went to a guy's house after a storm. His house was still sitting on the frame, but his whole basement was gone.
Oh,
It
Iris.
was
yeah.
just unreal.
Yeah, I think, just kudos to the department for the value engineering that's been saved. Again, I have to brag about it. And again, with the teams that we had in place, really, it's just the savings alone. I have to brag about it. And Chris, I'll let Chris chime in if he wants to, but
Yeah.
What did we talk about, Dan? We said that you replace a ditch, it's good for about 40 years.
easily, number one, we'll never go through such an expense again in the entire history of Darien. If anything, there's going to be some touch-up. When I say touch-up, it's either homeowners that are willing to do their own touch-up. They have that ability. And when I say touch-up, it means some topsoil, because they're rural areas still. So there's going to be some washout from the roadways, things of that nature. So at best, we're going to go into a maintenance mode if we decide to put that program in place.
'Cause it looks like as we go the other FYE 21 and 22, it's 700,000 for your remaining, and that's where we're at, correct?
That's correct.
The other day I was going down Clarendon Hill, down 67 from Clarendon Hills Road to Cass, and the snow was melting and it was real moist out, and there was a lot of ponding and water on those sidewalks and the streets, and that really is a project that needs to be done.
It's like Clarendon Hills Road. I mean, if you go down Clarendon Hills Road now, you could see the difference night and day.
Yeah, that one guy.
In 67th, unfortunately, it's an expensive project, but it's one of the bigger projects, and it's all the fingers now that all lead into 67th Street, if you want to say.
The basins.
Yeah.
I have no problems with it, but I want to hear what
Did we ever
you-
decide how we're doing 67th Street, whether it's going to be a ditch or
Combination of where my estimate was, it's basically right on. I remember we were speaking about it at the committee level meeting. While I thought some of the figures were going to be a little bit higher, the way I estimated, the figures are basically right on. We got the report, and don't forget the report from Christopher Burke Engineering just included a portion of the water modeling study, not the entire roadway, because we were concerned from Richmond all the way up to Clarendon Hills Road. That was the bulk of water, so we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with the amount of storage, what type of rain event, and the downstream effect back into Willowbrook.
Are we doing these projects in-house?
It's a combination of in-house. There's certain tasks staff will perform, certain tasks that several different vendors will perform, including all the ingredients have all been vetted at this point.
I'm just from the school that this is, 40, 50 years down the line. We're chasing good money after good. Like the last project, Seminole, with the storm sewer project, that area, doesn't that get flooded a lot?
With the storm sewer project itself, yeah, that's a very critical, avenue for stormwater to get from north of Plainfield to south of Plainfield. And that's a two-part exercise.
What's everybody's thoughts?
I think it's money well spent.
Joe?
I don't know. I don't want the treasurer to yell at me.
too late?
I mean, it's infrastructure, and I think we've had a plan. The years I've been on going through, we're with light at the end of the tunnel. I think we have to go forward.
These projects can't be cut up in pieces, can they?
Only project that really could be cut up is 67th Street. While I don't recommend it, the reason for that is, we start cutting it up, pricing as the job becomes smaller can literally start to go up. It's a quantity-driven economies of scale, if you want to say.
You would start the project at the east end of 67th Street and work back as you did with all of the streets feeding into the basin.
Yes.
At Dale, or not Dale, at Crest Basin.
Correct.
Thomas?
Alderman Clistic.
Bueller?
What do you think? All right, so we'll go with it. All right, 25-35-4382 crack seal program, $163,286. That's isn't that our usual number that we do? Or is it higher?
It's
now?
slightly higher, and keep in mind now, what we're doing is we're going back into roadways that were done basically 3, 6, 9 years ago. If you look at our road maintenance catalog, which is going to be coming out, you can start to see the value of the crack seal and that it's actually saving some of the roadways anywhere from 2 to 3 years, as was predicted, whatever the case was 10 years ago or 12 years ago. So you're starting to see that in the road maintenance catalogs themselves.
Yeah, last night when we were looking at it, municipal services, you had one there was 2001, 2003. So those are only, I mean, we're able to go that long because of the crack seal.
That's correct.
It's not pretty, but it keeps the road.
It keeps the road intact and saves on the base repair and saves from a future reconstruct of a roadway.
Okay, and then curb and gutter program, 441,893. I know we came in a little bit less, but 441 is usually what we budget, correct?
Yeah, that's all based off of the roadways that currently have curb and gutter. Again, this is like a ditch project, if you want to say. Ditch projects are in rural roads where you don't touch them for 40, 50 years. And with a roadway project, you touch the curb every 12, 15 years.
Any issues with it? Let's go to 25-35-4855. Street reconstruction rehab, road program and shoulders, 1,500,000. How much miles are we getting out of it?
This will be 5.1 miles this year. We did discuss this at the committee level for preliminary approval of all the items there. One of the reasons that the road program is slightly higher is due to Clarendon Hills Road being done this year. There's traffic control, there's loop detectors, which activate the signals on Plainfield and Clarendon Hills Road, as well as there's some significant striping on that road as well. So all those costs are approximately $250,000, $300,000, above and beyond that's customarily within a road program. That's our major artery through town.
Any issues with it? Selective base repair, 67,500. Just
Again, it's basically at the status quo. That gives us the ability to do approximately, I believe it's 5,000 square yards of base repair throughout town. And what it does is it's preventive maintenance to save the road from further decay and premature failure.
any issues?
You haven't bid this out yet, have you?
Yes.
And these are exact
Brothers,
numbers.
yeah, these are exact numbers.
Who got it?
Brothers.
Who?
Brothers Asphalt.
Oh, I saw that. Okay.
Dan, the selective base repairs in conjunction with the road program, though?
Yes.
So if we run into it during that, we don't do it outside of the road?
No.
Okay.
Is that a combination company? Is that former name?
It's a break off of it, yes, I believe.
Which one?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
The one of the brothers, yeah.
I'll check it out.
Ironic, one of the brothers.
Okay, William Street, cost share with Downers, 65,000. Oh, thank you.
Again, it's self-explanatory. Basically, this is part of Downers Grove is doing Williams. We have some responsibility, a certain share. That share has been calculated and put into the budget.
What's the total amount of the street going to be? Isn't our share like 38% or something like that?
I know it's a lower percentage. They haven't gone out to bid yet. While they're going out to bid, there is, that's their engineer's estimate, that it does include the resurfacing, selective curb and gutter removal and replacement, and limited sidewalk, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was limited base repair.
Base repair, excuse me. Yeah.
Gotcha. That William Street is probably one of the worst ones around. It really is. Any issues with it?
Downers Grove Street, pretty bad.
I've been trying
This
to
is
get
a problem.
I've been getting calls on that since I got elected. to get that street fixed, so I'm all in.
It's not we don't include that in our road maintenance program we don't have, I mean, if we had to do it, we would cut that portion out, but again, we were waiting for Downers Grove to take the lead on that one.
I get it.
Downers Grove doesn't seem to keep up with the maintenance of the streets.
No comment.
I mean, Kearney Road from past the hangar,
That's going to be Downers Grove
That's
Township.
township now.
That's
Township,
not
yes.
Village of Downers.
that is terrible. I mean, there are potholes.
Oh, yeah.
You're driving, it's like defensive driving
That's what you're
to
doing.
avoid the potholes.
Take a look at the striping on Fairview by Downers Delight. We'll leave it at that. You can't see it. Never mind.
I'll cover that when I get the call from the administrator in Downers tomorrow when somebody's listening to our meeting.
Hey,
We'll
who knows?
talk to
Maybe
him about
maybe
that.
they might just stripe it. You never know. I'm not trying to throw Downers under the bus, trust me, but those are some difficult areas, and Williams is a difficult area. So, any issues with those? Capital construction 25-35-4325, street engineering, road cores and testing 35,000. And street engineer bid prep, 16,500. This is what we usually use, correct?
It's slightly up just a little in conjunction with over the years where it's been. You know, it's fair, it's a representative cost.
Anybody got any issues with it?
Didn't see anything in the budget. These from yet.
Okay, let's go to Municipal Services Water Fund Budget Summary, page 130. Okay.
You can joke, but I can't joke.
All right. Page 130. Water sales. We budgeted $8,037,000. We came in at $210,000 less at $7,827,536. Inspection tap permits 10,000 came in at 8,500. Other water sales. We budgeted 3,500. We came in 17,500 higher at $21,042. Under meter sales, we budgeted 1,000. We came in at about $6,000 higher at $6,855. Under interest income, we budgeted 2,000. We came in at 28,000, which was an increase of 26,000. With our water sales revenue being down, our total revenue we budgeted was $8,053,878. We came in $162,000 less at $7,891,933. Our operating expenditures, however, we budgeted $7,314,000. We came in at $442,000 less at $6,872,866. Transfer to water depreciation was $430,000. That's exactly what we did. So our total expenditures was $7,744,000 that we budgeted, but again we came in at $442,000 less at $7,302,866. So we budgeted our fiscal year balance was supposed to be $308,990. We actually came in at $589,067. We started at $1,460,845, and so our ending cash balance for this year will be $2,049,912. As we go out to FYE 20. We're basically looking for a fiscal year balance of a negative $121,371, which will leave our ending cash balance at $1,928,540. As we go out to FYE 21, we're going to look at a negative fiscal year balance of $34,000, which will bring it down to $1,894,000. And then for FYE 22, we're looking at a negative fiscal year balance of $139,121, which would bring us down to ending cash balance of $1,755,199. But we're looking at not changing the water rate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You know, the 3-year picture looks at the next fiscal year with no rate increase, and then looking out the next 2 years, I've projected a 25-cent increase. But again, we evaluate that every year. If revenues are better, we may not need that increase.
Gotcha. Go to page
Or
1.
expenses are less.
Gotcha.
Either part of the equation.
Let's go to page 131. Under personnel salaries, we budgeted $513,000. We came in at $44,000 less at $469,716. We budgeted $75,000 for overtime. We came in at $10,000 higher at $85,000. Our subtotal for that area was $588,000 is what we budgeted. We're basically coming in about $34,000 less at $554,716. Under benefits, Social Security, we budgeted $38,000. We came in at $4,000 less at $34,000. IMRF, we budgeted $78,809. We came in at $5,000 less at $73,134. Medical life insurance, we budgeted $107,404, and we came in at $2,500 less at $105,000. Our subtotal for benefits, we budgeted $235,000. We basically came in at $13,000 less at $222,000. Under operating costs, we were pretty much flat across the board. We budgeted $610,855. We came in at $608,750. Under contractual, DePage Water Commission, we budgeted spending $5,020,033. We came in at $394,000 $394,000 less at $4,626,290. So our subtotal for contractual, we basically, again, budgeted $5,224,000. We came in at $394,000 less at $4,826,000. Under capital, we budget $105,000. That's pretty much where we came in at. Under transfer, service charge, we budgeted $250,000. That's where we came in at. Under debt retire, we budgeted $300,025, came in slightly higher at $305,080. So our total expenses for the water fund budget, we budgeted $7,314,891. We came in at $442,000 less at $6,872,866. For FYE 20, we're looking at a total budget of $7,226,000, with maintenance requests of $7,176,000 and discretionary of $50,094. Any questions on that or comments? Let's go to page. We'll start at 132. There's nothing on 132 unless somebody wants to talk about something. Let's go to page 133. Under.
Really quickly on page 131, there's debt retirement for 300,000. Page 131.
Yeah, we this previous year, we issued a GO bond to cover future capital project improvements in the water fund, and the first year of those payments kick in next fiscal year.
Okay.
All right, so under 130, page 133, under operating 50-4223, 19,344 is the discretionary, and we'll start with fertilization of section of City Hall and fertilization section 2B of Public Works. Half to streets for both, $174, and the other one's $420. Any issues or discussions on it?
We already approved the other half.
Thank you. Swingate, Plant 4, cost share with
half
street.
green and half brown.
All right. Just remind me that we, $7,000, $3,500, we already approved it. Chairs for Public Works, $5,500, split with streets, $2,750, we already approved that, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Public Works building, design cost share with streets, $25,000, $12,500, we've already approved that, correct?
Right.
Okay. 50-4231, maintenance water system, $19,500. Skid steer, auger, and stump grinder, half to streets, $5,500. We already approved that, correct? Okay. Line locator, radio detection, RD 8100, PXL 8500. Dan.
This is an additional piece of equipment. What this does is gives the ability of the guys to, in the water department, to have this piece of equipment within their truck to be able, while they're out looking for leaks, whether it's a residential valve, valve vault, for example, and or water main.
You're preaching to the choir.
These are expensive pieces of equipment, but they're obviously very precise pieces of equipment. Yes,
How often do we use them?
every day. And Chris, correct me. if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
this allows us to locate out the street lights and the water main, water services, so it's essential.
Any issues with it?
Is this a new device?
This is
So
this is an
how is this-
additional unit.
Yes.
How's
So-
this different than what we've done before? How this?
We have one model that's an older version of this one, so this one will be an updated, and then we have one that's a different model or brand. And so, based on our research and interactions with the pieces of equipment, this is the one we chose, and we're just finding it more and more necessary where instead of having to call somebody and wait for the piece of equipment, they'll just have it in the truck, and it just allows us to be more efficient as a department.
I'm going to bring up a bad subject.
I think it's a good subject. But
We passed up the item under 4223 about the public works design. We're splitting the cost between that and municipal services. And my question is, why would we spend $25,000 to design a building and then not build it?
And
Council?
Mayor had asked me that, and I said, explained again, it was in for this year, and we held off. The council had added it last year, but in our budget over 3 years, there are no allocated
No
funds.
plans to build it.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, so if we get we'll get some study or some report for the 25, there's no other money in there, so that it'd have to come from
So
somewhere.
it would waste money that if we're not gonna build the building for
One
2
of
to 3
the,
years.
one of the things we discussed when we talked about putting the 25,000 in there was when we were done with the ditch projects, were we looking further enough ahead to see what we're gonna do with that money and possibly utilize that money for a public works facility upgrade, not a new building, but an upgrade. That's why we put the 25,000. 2 years ago, when we originally discussed it in a goal setting, the discussion was, where are we gonna go in 3 years when we're done with the ditch project? What are we gonna do with that money? I know we talked tonight about using that money for other projects, but we also talked about long-term planning in terms of our public works facility. And we've put that off enough so that I think we really need to see, if you go in and look at the detail in terms of what this firm is gonna provide us, they're gonna give us some important information that we probably will be able to utilize if we decide to go forward.
But the information will be stale because we're not gonna build a building for 2 to 3 years.
Well, I thought we
Well-
talked about that. I thought we asked how long were these designs going to be good for, and I thought the answer was a lot
Indefinitely.
long, yeah,
It's
a longer
really-
period of time.
The prices might change with inflation, but whatever the
Design.
design is,
The opportunity also allows us to look at certain costs and be able to dice it and slice it. For example, the roof system. The roof system that's currently in place is obsolete. Meanwhile, if we go and put budgetary monies for a roof system, what's not to say that the entire roof may have to be lifted, but part of this design may include, I'll call it a lunchroom, or put an office upstairs on a second floor, add on to that, and take some space that's currently downstairs and utilize that for additional storage, truck storage, equipment storage, whatever the case is. And our other thought process was that there's potentially 2 ways that we could bring out additional bays. And by bringing out those bays gives us the additional room, and that's something else that could be phased in, whether one wing is done this year, let's just say this year, and one wing is done the following year. So there's opportunities for all these phase outs, but until then, we don't know what this building is capable of handling or not handling.
I just think it's premature money.
Let me ask a question, because it was brought earlier that the $500,000 we have set aside for, we'll call them emergency capital project, okay? That if somebody decided they wanted to look for a tax incentive at Cass and Plainfield Road, that we have the ability to go into that fund and take that.
Yeah.
So on that same mindset, why can't we eliminate this $25,000 for this? It's apparently it's earmarked. It's not going anywhere. And then if the time comes to we're going to design it and we need the $25,000, why can't we go back to that? It's the same philosophy as what was mentioned here earlier.
But we still don't know what the cost of these building additions or remodelings will cost.
but let me take a step back, Joe, because
You know
what you're saying makes sense. So the very first thing,
Write
and,
this
and
down.
we've been talking, we've been talking about this building for years, and I've never included it in the draft budget. I didn't last year, except the council wanted it in the budget, so the council said put it in the budget. But I think that is the first step. By the council putting it in the budget, the council is convinced that we need some work done at the Public Works building. So once there's a majority of the council has decided we need some work done at the Public Works building, that's why we're at this step. But I think if the question was still out there, we don't know if we need more space or not, we might not have this $25,000 in the budget. So I think step one seems to be done. The majority of the council said we need more space for municipal service. So until we said that, I would agree that why put that in the budget. But
I mean, we've been doing minor repair there, the doors. There's a lot of little things, the floor, we redid the floor. If you go over and actually look at that facility, I mean, Ted and I used to go over there every year with previous aldermen just to take a look at that facility. My major concern with that facility is that we don't have room for all of the equipment that gets stored outside and
Well,
where the
I get-
I mean, and I'm not saying we build bays to bring in more 9-ton dump trucks. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have infrastructure problems with that building. And why not know what it's going to cost us? Several years ago, we needed a new salt facility, and we got an estimated cost of $290,000. And so admin finance said, no, we won't spend that money. We went back and sat down with Dan and the Public Works people, and Public Works says if we do the work, we become the general contractors and we subcontract it out, we can save almost $100,000, and I think we did.
Easily, yeah.
We got it for $190,000 because we did certain things and we piecemealed it. And as a result of piecemealing and getting that salt shed, we saved money on being able to buy additional salt. So, I mean, I'm looking at this facility as I'm looking forward and saying we may be saving money by spending this $25,000, knowing our costs, and making these piecemeal repairs.
Right, but are we spending the money now? Are we going forward with the project, or are we just earmarking it?
Well, we don't, the bottom line is we're never going to know what it's going to cost for budgetary purposes for what we need.
My understanding from the direction now from the council, if we were to get this proposal today, or in this fiscal year, which we ended up not getting that, but if we would have had something and then it said there was $1 million needed for this project or two, whatever that number is, and the council said we want to do that, I would have somehow worked that in the budget. And we would have, I don't know if it will be an additional bond or what it would take at this point. It depends. And looking out into the third year now, there's $1 million left in the balance, but, that's a shrinking balance. So, but I believe the council is interested in getting the plans, so the intent is to move forward. That was my understanding.
When do we move? Do we have an idea? Do you have an anticipated time when you're moving forward?
As soon as Sterling Bay is somewhat completed with the site
study, Joe, you
development.
mean?
Yeah.
Not the,
Right.
just with the study.
Yeah, just when we held off on it this year's specifically until we saw the finished product and grading with Sterling Bay, so we had some realization, if you want to say, and be able to go and then have the architect out there, architect/designer, and look at the phases that we're looking at and keep going from there. So back to your answer, the question to your answer is, or the answer to your question is probably May or June to go out for proposals.
Okay.
I mean, basically, we're paying for information so that in the future we can make an intelligent decision.
No, it's fine. But
I mean, that's the.
But
that's,
the decision,
No, I mean, an
there is
intelligent
interest in
decision.
going after this. It's-
Absolutely.
yes,
But the
right.
intelligent decision is how we're going to make the changes.
Right.
I mean, that's the point of it.
Would it sound like,
And my concern back then was, how long is this design going to be good for? And if it did go stale, I would have agreed with people that let's not do it now. But the fact that it has some longevity to it, and we can, and if we don't get around to doing it for 4 years or 5 years and looking at it, it's still valid, then we're not wasting money and we're going to have good information
No, it's
to
fine.
make a smart decision.
what I was hearing is that we're budgeting it, but we're not doing anything with it yet. So my thought is, well, then either you spend it or you put it, allocate it to something else. That's
Well, that your point is right,
Right.
though. Over 3 years, we have 25,000 for design and nothing else. So at least this snapshot of this budget upcoming, there is nothing
Okay.
else other than that. So when we're sitting here next year at this time, if that design is done, maybe then in next year's budget, the third year, maybe we will try to work some money in. But
But it would be foolish to allocate money for something we don't know what they're going to do because we haven't seen the design yet. And that's, I think, the whole point is once we have the design, we'll be able to make an intelligent decision as to what we want to do in the future regarding it.
Because I really don't see us doing everything that needs to be done in 1 year. I actually see us doing it more piecemeal. I mean, wouldn't you?
And that's fine. Again, a classic example of that would be we currently have 10 doors on one side, whatever the amount of doors is. And if that was to be expanded, what's not to say that those doors, for example, all that hardware can be utilized on new system?
Is there any way of looking at what any other municipalities, whether it be here in the Darien, DuPage County area versus state of Illinois that has something similar to that we can look at their numbers online or whatever, get it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They have all brand-new buildings, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million buildings. You know, so again, these are all brand-new buildings.
Ours is
I'd be more than
basically an
happy
old
to do
trucking
that
firm.
if you'd like, but,
Apparently.
You're not gonna want the answer.
Would the 25,000 also
not a good answer
include
anyway.
the architect taking a look and obviously looking at the structural, what's going on with the current building as well?
yes. And the roof system is the key point right there, right now.
So this is more of a feasibility study than,
I would refer to it as a feasibility
what do you
study.
mean by that?
it's not an architectural design.
Oh.
Well, it's a combination of.
It's, you can't build from this. What we're gonna get, you can't get a building.
You have a concept, right, you have a concept design, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's all you're looking at is some steel and some concrete for the infrastructure in reality. So we're not looking,
Are you talking piecemeal or a brand-new building?
I don't know what the cost is gonna come in at. I would say if it came in at $1 million, that'd be maybe sliced it up to where it makes sense. Maybe it's over the course of 4 years at 250,000. Again, we'd have to do certain wings in order to accomplish the overall goals. So 1 year it might be $500,000, next year it might be 250 or something to that effect.
So the bottom line is, I guess the question, forget about the 25,000 for a second. Do we agree that eventually Public Works needs to be updated? Do you guys feel that way?
Are you asking me or just the?
I'm asking these guys. Tom, Tom, you on the phone still?
Tom Klistick, you there?
Yeah. I hate it.
So
Well, Tom,
that-
I think Tom is saying something, Dan, I don't know how this is contemplated. I think originally, the goal was to make sure things can be stored, the vehicles and things, right? I think initially that was the goal.
All right, and it's not to say there's certain portions of the far wing currently where some office space may be taken, and these items that are dry storage items could be moved into.
But Tom, I'm sorry, Tom Klistick was saying it needs updating, so there's some, Tom.
I guess
Klistick,
depends what you mean by updating.
Yeah, I think, are you talking about, sprucing up the offices too? Is that what you meant?
Just general, correct. General, yeah. Boosting up and long-term discussions that looks like what's in it for that. So, for my opinion.
So again, I think, Dan, while you're talking about getting something or maybe making the building larger and thing, Tom's also talking about, the offices that are probably need some painting, some carpeting and some other
Plus,
stuff. I guess.
file storage, for example. I mean, the plans that we have are very valuable plans, subdivision plans with construction drawings. And again, we've come a long way, but it's not to where it should be.
And again, like everything else that's over 5,000, if this is included in the budget, we would come back to the council for another discussion and formal approval. of this item.
We don't have any changing rooms in there. When I was reading that, what do you guys come dressed to go to work, and that's how you go to work?
Absolutely.
There's no
Do other public works facilities actually have changing areas?
Sure do. Locker rooms. Yep.
showers.
So when guys are
working in
working
ditches
snow
and you're
plowing,
getting
they're
full
doing the
mud.
12-hour shifts and
Yeah,
stuff.
you don't wanna go
There's no
home.
place for
Yeah,
them to
there's
go
some-
and.
They can't take a nap. They have to go home or sleep on the floor or in a truck. All of which I've done and not overly comfortable.
So if the overall idea is eventually that this building has to be taken care of, then the 25,000 and we're chasing good money after good is how you guys feel, correct?
Yeah.
Because the plans may not be done for 2 or 3 years, but they could be indefinite, is what you guys are saying?
Sure, they could be shelved.
And this also could come back and basically say, we could get this project done for $1 million and be great and terrific, or we come back at 10 million and be like, oh my gosh, what are we doing in this one?
I don't think it would be that high.
All right?
Well, for 10 million, it would have locker rooms. That's for sure.
$10 million.
The point is that we don't know what we're getting until we turn around and find out, is the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, any building revisions, modifications, you need some preliminary plans, and that's what this is.
Then I have no problems with that. What do you guys feel? Okay. Where was I left off at?
We're on page
The leak
134.
surveyor, 5500, FCS model S30 ultrasonic leak detector.
Yeah, this is another, an additional leak detection device and almost streamlines with the other locator, if you want to say. In some cases, you have to locate the lines and also, a suspicious leak, whether it's a Buffalo box, whether it's a service line, or as I said before, a valve vault and or a water main. Again, it basically relates to efficiency and not waiting for another piece of equipment to show up, especially with the water department personnel.
Any issues with it? Okay, we'll leave it on. Let's go down to page 134, 50-4815, trailer mounted attenuator. However you pronounce it. We already approved it before for $92.50. And the same thing with small equipment trailer for $4,000. Half the streets, $2,000, already approved it. Any questions on this area?
Sorry, where were you at there?
Capital purchases, you moved through that page real fast.
50,
Did I miss something? I'm sorry.
What page are you?
page 134,
Yes.
very bottom, in the
I'm
top
talking
of
supplies
135.
and training and education.
If you guys want to talk about anything, please let me know.
What's that?
Discretionary in that. You're highlighting the discretionary.
We moved to water
Yeah, I could have put that
depreciation.
over.
Which one?
Well, it's some of the training.
You guys, should we go to water depreciation?
I'm
everybody?
sorry, Alderman, just on the bond,
Yep.
the debt retirement, as we show for 688, those were general obligation bonds. That means they're on the part of our tax levy unless they're abated.
Okay.
And because we're able to accommodate those in this budget with the rate, we will abate those. And on the next council meeting, there will be an ordinance abating those two bonds, so they are not on the property tax.
Okay. Okay, let's go to, should we go to water depreciation fund? Okay. Page 156, transfer from water fund, we budgeted 430,000, that's exactly what we did. Interest, we had no budget on that, but we came in at $20,000. Bond proceeds, we budgeted $3,500,000, we came in at $46,000 less at $3,453,609. Our total revenues, $3,930,000, we came in basically $26,000 less at $3,903,000. Under expenditures, equipment, we didn't have anything budget, but we came in at $79,000. Under capital outlay, we budgeted $1,608,000. We actually came in at $44,000 less at $1,564,000. So our total expenditures, we budgeted $1,608,000. We came in at $35,000 more at $1,643,000.
What did we spend that capital outlay on, Dan?
I'd have to take a look at it. It's,
Which one here?
The capital outlay, what did we spend all that money, $1,564,000?
for 79,000, you mean?
Oh, we did the
1,564,000.
Plainfield Road water main.
That's the one.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I
All
thought
right,
you were referring to
okay.
another.
I forgot. And that's the one that came in not much under budget, but close to under budget.
We were over budget slightly.
Yep. We had to have a heart-to-heart with that,
Yes.
that vendor, yes. I remember that.
So for FYE 19, we budgeted revenues of 3.9 million with expenditures of 1.6, with a fiscal year balance of 2,322,000. However, our revenues were slightly down, our expenditures were slightly up. We came in at $61,000 less at $2,260,609. All right. We were estimating an ending fund balance of $315,000 in the negative. We actually were, that's where we came in at. So our total ending fund balance, instead of being $2,101,000, came in $156,000 less at $1,944,000. As we look at FYE 20, we're looking at revenues of $815,000. We're looking at expenditures of $1,507,000 for a fiscal year balance of a negative $692,000. With our ending fund balance of $1,944,000, we're going to come in at a $1,252,653. So we look at FYE 21, we're looking at a fiscal year balance of negative $550,000, which would bring our ending fund balance down to $702,000. And for FYE 20, we're basically looking at a fiscal year balance at $755,000, which will bring up with our 702 to $1,457,000. Questions on this page? Go to page 157. 12-514390 capital improvement infrastructure. Our total expenditures are looking at $1,410,000. Commercial water meters for $250,000. Residential water meters replace ARB style meters for $600,000. Installation of residential meters, which is approximately 4,400 meters, for $500,000. SCADA system upgrades for $15,000. Valve and altitude valves for $45,000, which would end up being $1,410,000.
Do we have to do SCADA system upgrades every year? This looks familiar.
It's, in this particular case, I know we're replacing certain components, and the components that need to be replaced. The clay, I believe it's the clay valves, without not being on the page.
The SCADA system stuff is we keep having an alarm trouble with one of the components that's given us the tower readings from the Lamont Road Tower, and so we're going to replace that with a different type of component.
What is it? Calling
It's
low,
radio-
low water amount?
No, it's given a communication loss, so we can't actually get a reading, so we have no idea what the tower level is, and therefore the pumping station at 75th Street doesn't know what to do.
Okay,
Then it goes into alarms.
Yeah.
okay, got it.
So, and then we're doing some other stuff, but we don't do it every year. There's money in there every year, but this is we're doing a couple other things, but trying to make it a little bit more
Do we
automated,
replace water meters every year?
minimal. Only, it's been limited to only what's been, what they call them E1s from what the county gives us, and that's just meters that they can't get a reading on, or they've stopped, or, basically problematic
I want to make a
meters.
general comment on the waterfront, and Chris or Dan could add all the details, but this current year, we have some projects that were included, some engineering work for some water main loops. And we have not done those because this issue of meter replacement has come up, and we've prioritized that. And this is not this what we're looking at now is residential meter replacements over the next 2 years. This does not contemplate yet going to the automated meter reading. But again, there's a couple of reasons that Chris could talk about why we would now are bringing this forward with really a need to do this over. And it's a big project going in all the most of the residents, 8,800 meters basically over 2 years, and actually replacing those. And again, I think the council's familiar with meters that are old become slow and they don't read as accurate. So if I'm at Joe's house and I replace his meter today, and Joe Kenny's house has an old meter, Joe's paying a fair revenue because the meter's reading accurate, and an older meter, as an example, that Joe might have is reading slow and Joe's paying less. So there's definitely an equity issue if it was reverse. So there's an equity issue, but also now with the our annual unaccounted for water, at some point, as Chris and Dan and the crews are fixing our leaks, replacing water meters and doing a lot of things, are unaccounted for flow, you start getting a good control of that because you don't have leaks in your system. But obviously, if meters are running slow, that becomes for an unaccounted for flow. And there's new rules, I believe the EPA has, that we're trying to be kept under certain levels. So again, that's why if you looked at the current budget compared to the budget we're proposing, we have prioritized this meter replacement to get it done over 2 years.
And this is the first year of the meter replacement?
Of this larger one, we've been doing,
We
I
did
don't
it
know,
last year?
how many a year?
We've done a
30,
handful of
maybe
it.
40?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's
minimal.
$25,000, $27,000.
Yeah.
A
Do you
few years
offer
ago,
them-
we did 500, which was a step up, and that was our case study to find out what the rate that they were underreporting by was.
Chris, let me ask a question. If somebody, I thought somebody just told me that if they had one of these new meters put in, and they found out that their meter had been running slow for a number of years. And they got a bill for several $100s. So we went back and charged them for,
Well, that's an issue you have when, I think, Chris, again, to talk to that, but sometimes when you change the meter out, you've been reading it outside and you even up on the meter inside, there is some discrepancies with that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not the more common issues. I think sometimes what happens is when the meter stops working altogether, there's when they finally do start getting a reading, they go back and say, okay, well, this is what you were using. This is your normal usage, and it just comes back to, if people paying what they, that it's reading accurate.
what they use.
Yeah.
But maybe
It's
in a
not
case-
uncommon.
I'm sorry, there may be in a case where maybe some reads were estimated.
Yeah.
Then
right.
you pull out that meter and you find the estimates were low, you could have
Yeah.
a back charge, but
Because
as Dan said, that's not-
Right.
the wire could be broken between the outside reader and the actual meter itself, and now let's say your normal usage is off because your toilet was leaking, and that could, we've seen it. That adds up really quickly, and so all of a sudden you had a toilet leaking and the outside reader wasn't working. All of a sudden when we get in there to change that meter out, well, now you have all this usage that they weren't able to actually see because they can't get inside your house, to get that reading. So sometimes that in an instance like that can catch up and lead to an instance where you may get an unusually high water bill after a meter replaced. But some of it's just due to the actual usage, after it being replaced.
Chris, when you're replacing so many like this, are we gonna go back and look at those 4,400 and take a look and see how many of them weren't working properly?
We already, I think with the sample, I'm sorry, Chris, not to interject, but just to answer that. We did that sample survey, if you recall, and it was determined that the meters were running approximately anywhere from 7 to 10% slower. So if you were to take that, and I believe we did a case study at 100, was it 100 samples?
500.
500 samples.
Yeah, we pulled out 500 and had them tested basically.
So
I think it was actually a little bit more slow than that.
yeah, and some of
Yeah.
them were, and I want to be conservative with that figure at the same time. And keep in mind, these meters that are in there. There's some meters that are 30 years plus that are within these homes. The American Water Works Association standard, basically back then, has said that meters should be replaced at a 12-year mark. We've stretched it out to a 15-year. They've doubled their lives, and a lot of the equipment that we have currently, they're referred to as remote guns that read the outside readers. What are we down to? 2?
We're down to our last one, and DuPage County has maybe a few left. There's a certain style of the outside reader that is obsolete. They about 2 or 3 years ago, they stopped making the components in order to be able to, the technology in order to be able to read that meter from the outside reader. At that point, we requested some funding, just purchase requests, and we bought a few of those guns in order to be able to continue reading these. But we're at the point where you have to replace these because as these meters as these guns are deteriorating in condition, they can't be fixed, and you won't be able to read these meters, and so then you're in a real catch-22.
So the bottom line is when you say to 7 to 10, you're talking to 7 to 10% loss, correct?
Correct.
So if we're looking at $5 million in cost for water, 10% is 500,000 we're losing out the back.
And you have to really look at the wholesale cost versus the retail cost. So yes.
But eventually the point is that these are going to pay for themselves.
Yeah, and
Well,
with
they'll
the tech,
pay for themselves and they'll help keep the water rate down, because we'll be collecting a fair revenue. And Mayor Weaver asked me, because I mentioned automated meter reading. Right now, as Dan mentioned, there's still, meter readers that go to homes and read the meters, and the county does that for us. And Dan's working now with the county on possibly this automated meter reading where it's all done computerized now, wireless, and it all reads, and you do it
But
that way.
will these meters, all these meters that we're replacing, will they work with that system?
the answer is yes. We're currently in discussion with DuPage County and a couple other municipalities, basically to form a co-op. And what the co-op basically is DuPage County would be the proprietor, if you want to say, of all the equipment, infrastructure for this AMR system, automated meter reading system. What they would be utilizing is, for example, water towers, cell towers, to put these antennas up. Depending on the 3 municipalities, including us, that would be on this system, there's some economy of scale with the infrastructure. Since DuPage County currently does bill for us, we would basically install these. In our case, it's 9,000 meters approximately. DuPage County, I forgot what theirs.
I think they said 4,500 or something like that.
4,500. So what we're trying to, an RFP has been put together, so we're getting ready to release this RFP and to have the types of meters that we currently have, that some of the meters that we do have the ability of AMR remote reading already, or this AMR technology. So the way the specs are written, there's a couple different meters that are going to be allowed to be within the specifications. So to your answer is, we're looking at a couple different systems, but the real answer is that if you do it today, meaning the infrastructure and the meter and the remote, it's all one stop. Whereas if you put a remote reader on the outside today, without this other infrastructure, AMR technology, you will have to go back out there in the future, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, to replace the remote. The remotes are approximately 100, we're going to say right now for budgetary purposes, about $145 to replace.
Oh, the
Right, it's a
the
gun,
remote
it's a
now,
gun
how we do it
read
now, right?
versus, the ones that we will be replacing today will be a gun read, obviously an updated gun read type of equipment.
So Dan, when these meters are put in, and if we go to an AMR, they would probably have to add something onto the meter
They would
make
just,
it-
no, just the outside, but just the outside.
outside of
reader,
the house.
yeah.
So eventually, there would be a phase 2 where things would need to be attached from
Correct,
the meter
but-
to the outside.
Well, we want to be careful so we're not spending, doubling a cost, for example, because the remotes are part of this package already. We want to make sure what the county's doing, so we could all be on board at
Yeah,
the
that's
same
what I'm trying
time.
to get to, this one-stop
Right,
operation.
right.
Instead of going into homes
Because
twice or something.
the alternative is, if things don't work out with this co-op, we will then look at this infrastructure ourselves. And then the goal would be to install the infrastructure, which we wouldn't need as much. We would then take all the readings, and then we would basically tell the county, okay, here's our readings, and there would be a cost for us supplying DuPage County, in this case, the readings, because they need our readings for the sanitary sewer charges.
So we would weigh those costs against continually reading like we're doing, because there's an expense with the county now, and we just have to do a cost benefit with the new
Sounds like we'd
expenses.
have to hire someone to do the readings.
No, because with the automated system, they'll all come in via this
Satellite.
infrastructure, not satellite, if you want to
It's
call it
radio.
radio wave, actually.
Well, I can see the benefit for sure of reducing our unaccounted for water loss.
Yes, and that's a mandate that we have to, by 20,
This year it's 12%. Next year it's 10%, and they're looking at. It used to be 8%, and then they went to these new forms. It was a new AWWA audit form that they required us to fill out, and that so they allowed for the percentage to go up for a while, but they're working to get it back down.
Any issues with it? Okay, we'll leave it in. All right, we have MFT and we also have Terra Hill, and there's no discretionary, and I can read the numbers real quick, so.
MFT, I have just the hand that
Yeah.
I mentioned, and the page numbers are on there, so you could delete the current ones you have.
I'm just going to read this real fast, just to give you guys an update. FYE budget, MFT allotment was $552,000, that's what we came in at.
Going on the new one.
Oh,
Just-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, MFT allotment was $552,150. That's what we came in at. Our interest came in at $4,000 higher at $5,000. We had originally budgeted $1,000. Our total revenue, we budgeted $553. We came in at $557,000. Under operating and expenditures, Our salaries were budgeted at 245,000. That's what we came in at. Benefits were the same, completely flat. Road material, we came in at $2,000 less. We were budgeted at 38,100, came in at 36,350. Under salt, we budgeted 154,000. However, we came in basically, I'm trying to do quick numbers since I just saw them, at 225,000. So basically almost $70,000 higher in salt because of all the needs for this year.
And you'll see a lot of those on the next bill list Monday night. There's a lot we just put through for expenses.
Fair enough. Supplies, other 18,500. I'm sorry.
Just with the trend lately, the last couple of years, is that going to be enough for salt, the 176,000 for budget next year?
At this point, yeah, I'm really, and this year's been an anomaly, and matter of fact, we just looked at it today, and it's gonna probably be a little bit less than what we had proposed.
Our expenditures under that section, we budgeted 508,000, but because of the increase in salt, we came in at 576,000, which is approximately $69,000 higher. Under contractual payment striping, we budgeted 14,500. We came in $5,500 less at 9,000. Consulting professional services were flat. Our subtotal, we budgeted 19,500. We came in at $5,500 less at 14,000. For our total expenditures, we budgeted 527,000. We came in at 590,000. We are looking for a fiscal year balance of 25,616 to be in the positive, but we came in at negative 33,665 because of the actual increase in salt. Our ending fund balance, we basically were flat. We were thinking 388,000. We came in at 389,000. So with our ending fund balance of 389,000 and our fiscal year balance of negative 33,000, our ending fund balance will be 355,774. As we go out for FYE 20, we're basically looking at a negative balance of 48,000, which would bring our ending fund balance down to 307,000. As we go out to FYE 21, we're looking at a negative fiscal year balance of negative 20,000, which would bring then our ending fund balance down to 287. And then FYE 22, we're looking at negative 26,607 for an ending fund balance of 260,733. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, one quick stop, Ted.
Yes.
Brian, I think I mentioned these to you, but the supplies other that you've got showing at 18.5 at the end of January, we were already over about 21.5. We were already about 3,000 over, and on the consulting professional, we're already about $1,100 over the projected amount, the 5,000s.
And why? Why were we over?
The supplies, I believe that's in relation to during the road program, we go out and inspect all the storm sewers, so any type of storm sewer supplies are basically charged to that account.
Any talk in Springfield about messing with our MFT funds?
I haven't heard anything.
About
I'm sorry, Mike, your other question was on the consulting?
Reduce it?
With the way they've been,
You were 1,100 over.
Yeah.
with the governor's
Mike, the other one was
speech.
consulting, you said, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's in regards to consulting.
Consulting was 61.38 at the end of January.
Yeah, consulting is the emerald ash borer removals. That's the way it's just classified under the consulting, but that's the emerald ash borer.
Under
That goes
consulting,
under MFT.
It was allowed for MFT, yes.
we had money there to use. Okay.
The one question that I have under the budget for FYE 20, Joey brought up salt. We're anticipating 176,000. Is that 3,000 tons that we're usually looking at? Is that what we're looking at?
For next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll depend on the price. Right now, we're in DuPage County just put out a contract for salt. Based on what I've seen, it's relatively going to be the same price this year.
So, because
67, I believe, 67.21. I heard earlier.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the tonnage? The
Yeah.
total tonnage? The
Yeah.
total tonnage is a little bit less.
Okay.
But we do have the ability to go over a certain percentage like we did this year so far.
Okay, so the question I'm asking is 176,160. Got no problems with that.
Always teasing me.
We're coming at $67 per ton, basically.
67.15, yeah.
Okay, because if we do 3,000 tons, we're coming at 58.72, and that's not correct.
Right.
His son is in the Public Works
Okay.
Department in Arlington, that's all they ask.
So how much are we getting in actual tonnage for the salt? Just
For next year?
Yeah, and you're talking at $67.
Price it.
Yeah, well, we estimated a price on it. I have to take a look at my backup sheets. Let's see. Well, we could just,
So I basically, if my math is correct, we're probably looking at about 2,600 tons, correct?
based on
calculations.
on a $67 cost?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We don't think we're going to be above 70 is the big question.
At this point, no, it's nothing indicating that. I mean, there's no shortage of salt. The barges have been able to get up here. There's
Okay.
been no rivers that have been frozen. So all those things into
Because I remember in
consideration.
Okay, because, in 14, we went up to what, $110 per
Yes.
ton? So that's the point is we're not going to be above 70, we don't think.
No, because again, now barges were frozen on rivers and they couldn't get the salt up here.
Okay.
What are your
How were they frozen then and they weren't frozen this time around? Because it was cold.
Couldn't tell you. I would have to, with the polar vortex, right?
They were probably more prepared in anticipating that.
That could be, or the barges came in sooner. I couldn't answer that question for you.
What?
We painted them a couple years ago.
Does anybody have any questions about?
Thermal
Question,
paint.
we always go with the program. Is it, you said it was DuPage County that's going out to bid for salt?
Yes.
Is there any other consortiums that go out?
Illinois Department of Transportation, but we've been,
Do we compare prices to see who's got
Yes.
the better one? Yeah, okay.
well, the problem with the state is we have to put our request in typically by now. So we're either part of it or we're not. There's no going back. It's been favored with the DuPage, when DuPage County started this, the conditions have been a lot, including the pricing, and the conditions have been a lot more favorable. We've had problems with the Illinois, with the ICS, the department, it's part of the state. But we had a lot of problems, as far as getting the transportation, the quality of the salt. I think DuPage County really, in this case, runs a great program, especially with all the municipalities. I think every municipality in DuPage County is involved with DuPage County on this now.
So, but the bottom line is we don't think we're going to be above 70 a ton. It's the most important.
No, if we would be, it's, again, I'd come back and tell you, obviously, and where the contract's not going to be opening up until, I believe it's late April. I have to double
Yeah,
check.
it's like I said, this is one of those things, whatever the cost is, we got to pay for it. But like I said, as long as it's not one of those situations where, the supply is short and the prices are going to really jump up.
Not, like I said, there's been no information that has been leading to that fact at all.
Gotcha. Any questions on MFT that you guys want to discuss? Last thing, okay, special service area number 1, fund budget. This is basically Terra Hill. If you take a look for the people in Terra Hill that are listening, property taxes, we budgeted $5,000. That's what we collected. Our total revenue was $5,100, including interest. Our total expenditures, we budgeted $8,000. We actually came in at $6,750, so $1,250 less. Our ending fund balance, basically, we estimated was $15,988. We actually came in a little bit less at $14,270. Fiscal year balance, we were at a negative $1,650, which will bring our ending fund balance down to $12,620. As we go out for FYE 20, 21, and 22, we're looking again just to collect $5,000 per year from Terra Hill. The key on this whole thing as we go out, our ending fund balance as of FYE 20 will be $9,720. As we go out for FYE 21, we're looking at a fiscal year balance of negative $4,400, which will bring it down to $5,320. And FYE 20, we're looking at another negative $4,400 fiscal year balance, which will bring the total ending fund balance down to $920. Any questions on this at all?
And FYE 22, you said 20?
I'm sorry, FYE 22. Looking at numbers, they're starting to run together. Any questions at all? That's it.
Brian, will you give us a document with all the revisions then? That we've made a lot, but.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start putting together the final, and we'll have a cover sheet on there that shows any of the revisions.
Okay.
And, yeah.
I mean, those were minor this year compared to past years.
Everybody, I want to thank you for the budget. Thank you for being involved. We got it done in 2, which is very shocking and surprising, but we didn't have a lot to begin with, so.
The police budget was nice.
56,000.
Public Works takes care of the police, yes.